There you go. Live.
No, that's something different. That's the second one.
But you're still getting the levels from the mic. So.
Yeah, I have the other thing disappeared. Okay, let me go on the stream.
Okay, so Spencer, do you know where my silver laptop went?
No. I packed everything up that was here and brought it into the other room. If it's in one of the bags.
Yeah, can you go get his laptop?
Yeah. Do you know where was it in the bag?
It was just in a. I never came in here yesterday, so somebody brought it in here.
Oh, this is the laptop we were using yesterday. Okay.
Okay, on the table probably then.
Okay. Yeah, let's just test it. It's fine. Now, technically, it's not a half-hour countdown. We can just reset it.
It is half hour before we start.
Half hour before the show starts.
Starts at 7.
Oh, really?
We're actually there.
Okay. Well, yeah, we need to be tested. Okay. If anybody is online listening, we're just working out technical stuff. So enjoy the countdown. Dragonsteel Nexus 2024 is amazing. Lightweaver is how we fuel minds, feed imagination, and feed bodies. I think that's how it goes. Something like that. StoryCon coming at you in 2025. We're just doing some technical tests while you watch that beautiful countdown for Lightweaver.
Say something else, MC.
We are testing our live stream audio levels for our lovely people watching at home. We love Lightweaver. We love it. For anyone listening, 1701 is the what? What is 1701? Who knows why those 4 digits are so important? This guy with the beard, you better know. Come on. It is the serial number of the Starship Enterprise. And who are you and where are you from?
My name is John, and I'm from Atlanta, Georgia.
John from Atlanta, Georgia knows the serial number of the Starship Enterprise. So you can stay in the room, John. Well done. Well done. We're just doing some audio tests for Lightweaver. Audio tests. No, it just levels in the computer. Okay. Yeah, awesome. I'm seeing the mighty Adam with a mighty beard. That is a thick beard. This is a man who knows what's up. You and John from Atlanta have a connection. We are testing the live stream levels. Walk in the room, testing the levels, ladies and gentlemen. And you, tell me, what race is Lieutenant Commander Worf?
I don't know. I have no idea. What was the question?
What race is Lieutenant Commander Worf?
Klingon.
Thank you very much. Are you sure you belong in this room?
I definitely do not.
Okay, all right. At least you realize that there's a deficit. All we have to know is that when we have a weakness, we can make it a strength, right? Okay. That's right. So Taylor from Dragonsteel knows that he needs to learn his Star Trek races a little better. Well, Star Trek's always a good filler for everything. It's a filler for everything. Okay, but we're here at Dragonsteel Nexus. So who has started Book 5? Who has finished Book 5? Okay, I hope not, because you skipped something. Who finished it? Oh, my goodness. But it was worth it. Their like eyes are glowing with stormlight. Okay. So tell us, what's your first impressions of Book 5?
Oh, so good. Like, it will keep you up at night.
Okay, all right.
All the preview chapters, right? They've been releasing preview chapters since June. So, like, the first 30 chapters out, we've read all of those.
Oh, well then. So you were prepared.
Yes, we just haven't finished it yet.
Okay, all right.
Another 110 chapters.
You hit the ground like, what are the glidey people? The ones that can glide? The edge dancers. We have an edge dancer from Atlanta. Oh, here we go. Here's another one. Okay, so you are an edge dancer, and why?
I just like helping people, and I feel like I have a good memory,
A helpful edge dancer who helps people with a good memory. Well done. Well done. All right. I want to see you gliding around the room today. Okay. All right. Excellent. All right. Okay. We got levels. We're testing levels for Lightweaver 2024. Testing levels. There's a live chat who is enjoying our audio test. Should I keep testing levels here? We're going to keep testing levels. Testing. If I want to turn up the speakers in the room. Okay, and that's just speakers, not stream? Okay, they probably need to be a tiny bit higher because these bodies are going to start eating audio, but okay, excellent. Okay, very easy trivia question. Kaladin's weapon of choice. Come on, Kaladin's weapon of choice.
A dagger. I'm just kidding.
Okay, this guy does not, but okay, here we go. Okay, and it is a
spear.
Okay, Taylor got that one right. He doesn't know what a Klingon is, but he knows that Kaladin's favorite weapon is his spear. Well done. Well done.
He has been told that by someone near and dear and not her.
I love it. Fantastic. We're continuing to test audio for our live stream. We love anyone who comes online to the Lightweaver adventure online. That is super exciting for us. Okay. Another question, trivia question from the Sanderson verse. What was the, up through book 4 anyway, what was the biggest oath that Dalinar took? Anybody know? What's the oath Dalinar took at the end of book 4? Which ideal? Okay, and this, tell me your name again. Gordon the Edge Dancer is going to tell us which ideal Dalinar ascended to. Ready? And?
The third ideal of the bondsmiths.
The third ideal of the bondsmiths. Fantastic. And what was the ideal?
I actually don't remember that one.
Who knows what the third ideal of the bondsmiths is? Ladies and gentlemen, we need the third ideal of the bondsmiths. Okay. And to our fabulous online Lightweaver audience, we've enjoyed having you listen to us test audio. The show will begin soon.
Okay. We ready for that then?
Okay. Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Lightweaver Paint Night. The artists are still getting ready for painting, so if we can hold tight for just a little bit here as we get finish this up, and then we'll start.
To think of questions and the live stream audience to think of questions
Yeah.
during the paint.
Okay.
Just let
Yeah.
them know that we will be taking questions during the night. If you want to have those ready, set us minutes for the
Okay.
live stream, things like that. And these guys can come
Okay.
up one at a time.
Are we-
During question time, I'll just kind of.
Okay. Is that?
Kind of give an intro. Yeah, so like when we're not really doing anything, the cameras that we'll be showing are going to be just whoever's canvas. So something will be on the screen. So you don't feel like you have to be always doing something. Make sure you keep your voice, nice and loud. Okay. So Mike can pick up over all the other background noise. Yeah. And let them know. Yeah. So this event is for online audience. Online audience, feel free to ask questions. Feel free to for our live audience. For short periods of time, you can come up and actually look over the artist's shoulder and be very careful with the cables. Sounds good.
So a couple of housekeeping items here right at the beginning. If you have questions here for our studio audience, I guess, our live audience, if you have questions now and then, raise hands. We'll ask for those questions. So be thinking of some things that you could ask, or if you see something up here that an artist is doing and you have a question, hold that question, and when question time comes around, we will get to that. Also, for those who are watching online, if you have questions, type them in the chat. We may be able to get to those as well. So now and then, as you would like to, you can come up here and watch over the shoulder of an artist or two. We don't want a ton of people at a time, so kind of keep it not one at a time, but a few at a time. And on this side, or if the camera's over here, please keep an eye out for cables. We don't want anybody tripping on the cables. So those are some of the housekeeping items right there. We'll see if there's anything else that we need to cover during this, but have some questions in mind. We'll answer one right here. Okay. So maybe it's me. Maybe I need to go. Okay. Try it. Here we go. Testing, testing. More. 1, 2, 3. Okay. How about like this? Can you hear a little bit better if I'm a little louder? I'm not really a loud person, but I can try to be. What's that? 10 notches? That's like yelling for me. I will do my best. I can use my outdoor voice. I don't know if I can do that. Yeah, there's a question right here. They're asking if photography is okay. Does anybody know that answer? Okay, we're going to find out that answer, and we'll get it to you. Thank you for asking. Yeah. Just on like your... Yeah, I think that would be just fine. If you want to draw along, great, go for it. It's going to be one way or another, isn't it? How about like this? Right here? We are good for photography. Okay. How's that? Is that a little bit better? Okay. Yeah, no problem. Thank you. All right. Any more questions kind of with housekeeping items and how this is going to work? All right. So I think We've got people starting up here. I think we have everybody. Okay, we'll do that. Yeah. So Howard is curious. How many of you have been to the paint night before at the Dragonsteel convention? So we have several of you, and we have some new ones too. That's awesome. How many have been to 2? Okay, hardcore 3? Because I think we've done about 3 or 4, haven't we? How about 4? Okay, we've got 3 people who have been here 4 times. Thanks for coming again. Howard, do you have anything more to say right now? I mean, Howard will have things throughout the...
Thank you, everybody, for coming tonight. I think we're going to have a lot of fun. We decided to mix it up this year, and we have quite a few artists. If you've been in the past ones, it's just been a few of us. But we decided that we needed to grow this a little bit and hopefully raise some good money for Lightweaver. I think it's going to be really fun to do. So.
Yeah, so thank you for being here and helping out Lightweaver. Throughout the night, we will be bringing up some of the charities that Lightweaver helps out. And we'll be talking to them and learning about their missions. So I think that'll be a lot of fun.
When an audience member has a question, feel free to say, like, instruct them to raise their hand, and then I'll just run them a mic that online they can hear them.
Okay.
And if they start talking, then at least just repeat their question like you do with Howard.
Okay, we'll do that.
And when you do like a real interview with them, remember to be next to them so that that camera can that guy will come over.
He'll come
and
over
film
on
you
that
guys.
side. Okay.
Should we do like a bell or something? It'd be kind of fun. Like ding, ding, ding. Are we gonna just kind of start? Say 3, 2, 1, off we go.
I do a little announcement or get started or however you like.
Okay, I'm gonna go way down and just make sure we're kind of all close to that. So it looks like all the artists are ready. So I'm going to do my best impression of a starting bell. So yeah, we'll count down. That's a good idea. We're going to count down. 3, 2, 1. Ding, ding, ding. Okay, so we're off. We have Brian Mark Taylor here. He's madly mixing yellows.
Gotta get that yellow in first. Doomslug yellow.
So,
Mic'd up or no? Oh, okay. I'm not.
questions.
So at the beginning, you got to put the yellow in first because yellow gets really muddy. I'm going full nerd mode right here at the beginning. So I like to go along the spectrum. So I'm going to go red, oranges, like through the rainbow. And then back to the blues, greens, and then that goes back to the yellow. So that's where I got to start. That's where I got to start first.
Oh, that's awesome. Yeah, yellow. So I've watched Brian paint before, and he has a really cool process. And we'll be checking in with you now and then on that. So now we've got some orange going in there. And what is that you're mixing in with the paints to kind of extend that?
So I'm adding a little bit of Gamsol to loosen the paint. Then I'm putting in a little bit of the Aliquin, and that's just to let it dry fast. I do that only in the winter. I don't like to use it in the summer, but it's going to be cold, and this needs to dry fast, so it'll help it dry.
Now, Brian does a couple of different kinds of painting. There's studio paintings that you do, and then there's the plein air that you do on the spot. You want to tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, so I do a lot of painting out on location. That informs my landscapes, and so this is going to be a challenge because usually I have some sort of reference, but I'll use some of the just the knowledge I have of painting outdoors, different locations, to paint this this piece, so give it an atmosphere and light. So I'm deciding that my light source is going to come this direction from the upper corner down here, and then I'm going to have layers of distance, and so those are the two things that I'm thinking about right now.
Cool. Thanks, Brian. We'll come back and check on you. While I'm right here, let's talk to Howard, who is mixing up, looks like titanium white and a little bit of cadmium red in with maybe some yellow ochre in that?
Yes.
Okay. So he's mixing up a flesh tone is what it looks like, but let's talk to him about that.
Yeah, I'm getting. I was just thinking this is like the original color commentary, right? Like you're talking about the painting specifically about color, so I like it. Yeah, just getting. I'm going to mix up a couple piles of flesh tone. So I'm going to mix up a light side and a dark side, and then I'll use those to build the form. And I'm going to really try and stay true to Brandon's drawing here, which is going to be challenging. But we'll try and preserve what Brandon did. Which, by the way, if you didn't see the Halloween live stream, you may want to go and watch it because you'll be able to see Brandon do these drawings, as in kind of live doing those. So that'll be fun.
That sounds great. Now, Howard, you may not remember this, but what day was the Halloween live stream? Like what day, so that people will know where to find it on YouTube?
Yes, Halloween.
Yeah, what day is that?
October 31st.
I'm sorry, I'm just being a nut.
When does Christmas fall this year?
All right, so I did not watch that live stream.
Yeah.
Sorry, Brandon. Are we talking about what everybody's painting here? Could you tell us what you're painting?
Oh, yeah. So I am painting a portrait of me as Hoyd as a mall Santa. And I was there when it happened, and I'm still not sure how that happened. But I was sitting in front of Brandon, and he said, I'm going to do Hoyd, and I said, oh, I'll pose for it. And so he ended up drawing me with the beard, and then it became Hoyd as mall Santa. So here we are.
That is pretty crazy.
The people in the back cannot hear you. The speakers end at those lights, and so nobody behind those lights can hear you.
Okay. So I'll try to talk a little louder. Can they hear them?
Howard was able to be heard, but everyone was really quiet.
Okay.
So nobody in the back was being heard. So,
Okay. All right.
yeah, sorry. Just wanted to.
Oh, it's all good.
All right, it looks like we're over here. This might be the creature row, though I saw some creatures over there. We've got Kari Christensen and Esther Hialani Kandari. Did I get that right? Yeah. Both painting creatures here. Well, let's start with Kari. Kari, I know you have a long resume of having painted and drawn creatures. In fact, Kari did some great creatures in one of our leather bounds. That was Shadows of Self, right? Yeah, some amazing creatures there.
Also worked on the Great Shell for Way of Kings.
Yeah, that's right. So when we did the Way of Kings leather bound, we added a kind of a new picture that came over span read, and Kari drew that for us in the leather bound. So what do you have here that you're painting for us today?
So this is coming back to haunt me now because I'm working on another Chasm Fiend, but now Brandon wanted the Chasm Fiend to be having wine with Adolin in a chasm, and there's squiggly lines that are apparently rock buds, and another thing like a skull, and the Chasm Fiend is holding wine with its mandibles.
Wow. You guys really went overboard on these ideas, didn't you? This is great. So it looks like you're painting background to foreground. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Well, it's kind of a complex image with a lot going on. Brandon seemed to want to draw a whole canyon, so I'm going to solve the background first, cover up all the white on the board, and then start resolving the characters in the foreground.
Well, that's great. And what is your medium that you're painting in?
I'm doing a mix of acrylic and gouache. So starting with acrylic, and then I'll probably move to gouache for the characters for more like noodly details on them.
That's awesome. Now, I haven't seen Kari for a few months because he's off on adventures in Savannah, Georgia. Is there anything you can tell us about that?
Don't be on a hurricane, and it's not fun losing power for a week. But it was a fun experience. I was teaching at Savannah College of Art and Design and had 80 students. And also during the hurricane, I did a creature design workshop for 80 students. And it was fun to see lots of crazy creatures being drawn all at once.
It sounds like you were in your element there. That's awesome. Well, I'll let you get to it. I don't want to keep you from it, but it's looking awesome so far. So we have Esther Ilani Kandari here painting. What are you painting? Can you tell us about this?
Yeah, it's somewhat of an inventive scene from the book I'm illustrating right now, featuring a creature in the Emberdark. And there's boats, so it's mostly just going to be blurry black and blue, which is easy for me.
That's great. This is awesome. So right now, Esther is working on a book with us. She is illustrating Isles of the Emberdark, which is the 5th secret project that Brandon wrote, and we had it on backer kit. I can't remember if it was last year or the year before. I think it was March maybe, and it will be coming out next year. But we're getting near the tail end of all of the illustrating on it, and it is turning out fantastic. I can't wait for people to see what Esther has been cooking up for this one. Can you tell us a little bit about your process here?
Yeah, so I usually work pretty exclusively in oils, but we have a fairly narrow time frame tonight, so I'm doing the underpainting in acrylic to get the big colors blocked in. Also, the creature is semi-transparent, and so usually I'd paint it, let it dry for 2 days, and come back, and I don't have 2 days, so acrylic, and then we'll work on the creature in oils on top.
So for those who don't know, like, why you do an underpainting, could you let us know what is the purpose of an underpainting?
I think there's a couple different purposes. For me, it's to establish big colors, big values, but also depending on how transparent your top layers are, it allows you to have some of those textures and colors really shine through. Gives you more, especially when you're working with something that's semi-transparent, like an oil paint, gets some really good luminosity, the way the light bounces through the different layers. Yeah.
Well, it's looking awesome right now. I love that turquoise blue color that you've got going on. So great job. We'll come back in just a bit. Thank you.
Question from the audience if you want.
Yeah, let's grab a question from the audience.
You want to go first?
Yeah, sure.
Can you guys hear me still okay? I'm trying to get it loud. I'm just don't want to be yelling. I don't have a good yelling voice. So we have a question right here.
I was curious, how often do these artists collaborate with other artists, and how strange is this process right now for them?
Okay. Well, I'll ask on the next time here. So the question was, how strange is the process of doing this right here, painting on somebody else's underdrawing, basically, and what is the collaboration process like if they collaborate before? Thank you. So we're gonna ask that of Steve. Did you hear the question?
How is it to collaborate with other artists, and in particular Brandon here? Well, it's definitely an adventure. Brandon and Howard collaborated to give me this, which is a Steel Inquisitor chicken atop a mountain of KFC buckets. So the decision-making collaboration was interesting. I was not in on that. We don't tend to like directly collaborate as much as artists will ask each other for advice or to look at what they're working on and see if they have any tips or tricks, or if they can see something that needs fixing. Yeah, because one of the things is when you stare at something for hours and hours, there are you get blind spots, stuff that is obvious to everybody else. Like, there's an extra foot. Did you mean to do that? That you forgot because it was there, it was wrong, you moved it over here, and you forgot to paint over the other one. You know, stuff like that. But it's really beneficial to have some other artists that you can tap here and there and get a second pair of eyes on.
Thanks, Steve. And we're going to ask that of Caitlin here in just a minute. But before we go over there, tell us a little bit about your process at the beginning.
Well, so I'm just also kind of getting some undercolor down, and this is supposed to be like Frank Frazetta Death Dealer kind of style. And so the first thing I did was just throw on a bunch of color and then put some solvent, some Gamsol on the top, so it's got some kind of streaky, runny stuff. Hopefully that'll kind of dry quickly because it's got so much solvent in it, but it'll give kind of a nice textured background.
Well, I think it's looking great so far. I do have a suggestion. So you're doing chicken and nuggets. I would add some fries and then mix a little bit of the mayonnaise with the ketchup and get some fry sauce.
And since it's Brandon, somewhere there needs to be a mountain of salt.
Yeah, I get some salt in there too. Don't really do that, but yeah. But it's looking great. All right, Caitlin, how strange is this process for you?
It's amazingly strange. I absolutely love it. I haven't ever painted a drawing like this before, but I love it.
So this is Caitlin Zupanik, and she does a lot of awesome dragons. And so I see that it looks like Howard helped you out here, or Brandon or somebody, because they've got you painting a dragon.
Absolutely. It's my favorite thing to paint ever, and it's something that I can definitely paint fast.
So can you tell us what this dragon is? Because I'm not, it's looking like a dragon, there's a sword, but I'm not sure the thought process here. Maybe Howard knows the thought process, but yeah.
So this is actually a Zorro dragon, because of course we need a Zorro dragon on Halloween. So that's how it happened.
Okay, I was trying to look into like Cosmere lore and be like, what is this? And this was my guess. My guess was Mistborn spook as a dragon holding Nightblood. That was my guess.
I like that better. So close, and yet it is still Zorro. But for the all intents and purposes of this night, that's what it'll be. Is not Zorro, but spook.
Okay. Well, he's gotten Nightblood out, and so just remember to put those veins on the arm. Yeah, anyway. Can you tell us a bit about your process? You say that you've painted a lot of dragons, drawn a lot of dragons. What is your process on any painting, dragon or not?
Usually I'll start with a small thumbnail, and then I'll do a drawing. And all of my oil paintings, which is what I'm working in right now, is a grisaille or a brunei that I start with one color first, and then I'll layer color on top of it.
Now, the grisaille is kind of an interesting word. Howard can tell me, that's French or is that Italian? The grisaille. It is French. And usually that's because it was painted in kind of a gray color underpainting. And I believe this started in the Renaissance, but I could be wrong. I'm not an art historian. I just know enough to get in trouble. Maybe you can tell me a little more about that.
Everything that I know about it, I've pretty much learned from Howard, so that's about it.
So we're just going to pretend that we know what we're talking about there. Well, me. Everybody else knows what they're talking about. Well, it's looking awesome. We'll come back and check on it in a bit. Okay, we have another question from the live audience here.
Hi there. What's a medium that you've never worked with but always wanted to?
Are you talking to me or the artists? Because I've always wanted to maybe get my palm read, that kind of medium.
Yeah.
Or maybe like contact people from beyond the grave.
That feels achievable.
Anybody
actually.
can help me with that? No. He means the medium like a paint medium. Yeah. So what is a medium and what is one that people like to work with? Haven't worked with. Okay, we'll ask that question here. And Donato, you get to be the lucky recipient of this question. So this is Donato Giancola. Am I saying that right? Yeah. So Donato is one of those artists that we'd wanted to work with for a really long time, and I met him at EluxCon many years ago now.
10 years ago. At least 10 years ago, I think. Right?
Yeah, and approached him there, and luckily we also had an in with Kari, who knew Donato as well, and Kari could say, yeah, Brandon Sanderson's books are really great. You should look him up. So we started talking, and then you did that amazing Taln for us.
Yeah, that was a real honor to be invited to kind of join Brandon's universe. You know, he had so many, hundreds of artists you guys could have considered, but you guys reached out to me, and it was a real honor. You gave me the time and freedom to really interpret Taln and bring a lot of life and character to that painting.
A lot of people probably don't know this, but your name was one of the first to come up when Brandon said we wanted somebody to paint these heralds, and so we were honored as well to have you, because your painting style just felt like it matched perfectly with that sort of thing. So the question from the audience over here is, what is a medium, and what is a medium that you haven't worked in before but you might like to try?
Wow. I've been pretty happy. Like, part of being a professional is recognizing your deficiencies and your positive skill development. And so I've always loved sculpture. One of my favorite works of art, if you have to live on a desert island or a deserted island, with only one work of art, what would you pick? And people assumed I would pick a painting, but no, the Bernini's Apollo and Daphne sculpture from the Borghese Gallery in Rome is my selection that I'd want to live with for the rest of my life. Yeah.
Oh, that is fantastic. I love that answer. That's great. So have you ever thought about trying sculpture?
No. I recognize that is way beyond my capabilities. And if you've ever seen that sculpture, it is just mind-blowing. There are leaves and elements that are carved so thin that they become translucent. And you look at this is marble. This is not unforgiving. There's no back and forth. It is a one-way direction when you go into marble. And to look at those works that Bernini created is just beyond understanding.
Wow, I think I could listen to you talk about art and sculpture all day. What a great description of that. Thank you. Can you tell us what you're painting here and kind of what your process is, and if it differs in any way from your studio process?
Right now it's pretty similar. I'm applying an acrylic initial lay-in, which right now I'm actually going a lot further with the acrylic, in part because we're time limited, and also that the acrylic actually is not drying as fast as it does in my studio in Brooklyn. So it's actually acting a little bit like oils, allowing me to do some blending with it. It's quite nice. It's really working out pretty well. But one thing I would do is correct the drawing before I go into the painting. So Howard put me on the challenge. I was gonna correct Brandon's drawing here to make a little better hand work of art here. But he said, no, let's retain the clunkiness, the funky that Brandon brought. So I'm working with that, keeping the clunkiness. Being true to the intent of what Brandon drew. And it's actually kind of coming together okay.
That's pretty awesome. So what he drew is his hand.
Yeah, it's Brandon's hand, and it's on his own book, The Way of Kings. So you can see his wonderful penmanship here. Just as just for myself, I made a nice. This is actually how I work in the studio. I made a reference shot here. I don't know if you got a camera there that can see this, but maybe the audience can see it right behind me here. That there is a hand. Brandon's hand, because since they filmed this with Howard live, I was able to get a screenshot of Brandon doing this. So I go, oh, there's his hand. So I'm painting Brandon's hand on his book with a clunky, funky draftsmanship, and I'm gonna try to embellish the book of The Way of Kings that he's in a. I think initially there's a pen that Brandon thought, but I thought it looked like a sword. and I thought it was pretty cool, a little more conceptual that a tiny sword is held in Brandon's hand. So it goes kind of makes him larger than life, as the creator of the worlds here.
That's a really great idea. I think you've got an added challenge here too, because not only are you painting Brandon's drawing, you're painting Brandon's drawing of the Way of Kings with a Michael Whalen cover.
Yeah, living in the shadow of Whalen is my life. Okay. Thanks for reminding me of that.
I love the beautiful purples and things that you have going on there, though. It's looking really great. Thanks, Donato.
All right, thank you.
Do we have another question from the audience that maybe I could send Katie's way? Okay.
Oh, this one wasn't for Katie. This is for Steve Argyle.
This is for Steve. Okay, we'll go to Steve, and then we'll go over there.
I was curious what the name of the Steel Inquisitor chicken is and who he's avenging.
Okay. So we're going to come over here. And Steve, what is the name of the chicken, and who is he avenging, or she?
Put me on the spot, why don't you? Colonel Sanderson. And he is avenging all of his fried brothers.
I love it. Right now it's giving off a little bit like Abraham Lincoln Vampire Hunter vibes, which I haven't seen the movie, but the book is fantastic. But I know it's going to come together. It's looking really awesome.
Thank you.
And a medium that Steve hasn't tried yet painting in, but he wants to, is fry sauce. There's a lot of... maybe he has tried it.
Yeah. What are you talking about? Hasn't tried it. I've painted in all the culinary mediums. Mostly when I'm depressed and alone in the dark at night. But I've done it.
Okay, what is the weirdest culinary medium that you have painted in?
Oh, I don't think I can talk about that. It might incriminate me.
Okay. Well, for those of you watching at home, we're in Utah. We have fry sauce that we eat with our fries.
That's true. They don't have that in a lot of places.
In the uncivilized world, they do not have fry sauce. They have things like mayo chup.
That sounds like it's the same thing but a dumb name.
Yeah, tell Heinz. They actually named something mayo chup. But anyway, it is an interesting fact, though, that fry sauce has been invented, and I'm not even lying here, not lying or making it up. It's been invented in several places in the world independently. So that tells me that it must be inevitable that somewhere we're going to get fry sauce in every timeline.
So is that the ultimate evolution or the ultimate corruption of sauces?
I think that is really dependent on people's tastes. Like Brandon said at his speech last night, we can't really say that 90% of condiments are junk. We have to say that, most of them are probably good because somewhere somebody is going to like one condiment or another.
Yeah, but they can all be wrong.
Okay. And we are all entitled to our opinions. Sorry, we're going down the fry sauce. I think I should just stop it, on this tangent. But thanks, Steve, for going with me on this.
Good tangent.
All right. Do we have a question over where?
For Katie.
For Katie. Okay, we have a question for Katie.
Yeah, I just want to know, Katie, how long would a picture this size normally take you to do if you weren't on a limited amount of time?
Okay, I'll go over there and give her the mic. So the question is, if Katie wasn't on a limited time, how long would this picture normally take her? So this is Katie Payne over here.
I mean, I can't say I've painted a drawing of this level of detail in since I was 8, so I can't really know. This is a new territory all over again. We're back, baby.
Well, let's talk a little bit about your drawing here. So some cool things about Katie. Katie has been an art director at Brotherwise Games for the last year, working on the RPG. And tell me what you're painting right here.
This is Vin. She is still pushing her way up into the sky above Luthadel. She has her obsidian dagger, and she's looking her ferocious, knifey self. Yeah, we all love Vin. Who doesn't love Vin with her tassels, right?
So I think this is the perfect piece for you to be painting. One of my favorite depictions of Vin is one that you drew with Tensoon kind of leaping through the mists. Anyway, fantastic job on that. I also own a Katie original drawing of Kelsier, which is one of the best Kelsiers I've ever seen. So can you tell us a little bit about how you got into Mistborn?
Oh, well, you can, I can answer that by pointing right here. This is my husband. He's sitting up here because he's actually an incredible master oil painter, and I'm not being sarcastic. He studied for 4 years at a school in New York City called the Grand Central Academy. The main teacher is Jacob Collins and Colleen Barry, two very famous, world-famous painters. There 4 years, he learned, he just came out of it just an insane master painter, and I happen to be married to him, and it's my dang right to have him up here with me, coaching me along so that things turn out even better than they possibly could be. And he's the one in New York when he was going to that school, and we were there like 12 years ago. He read Mistborn, and he said, Katie, you have to read this book. And so here I am sitting here right now painting this. It's kind of funny, right? So.
Well, that's awesome. Thank you, Andrew, for sharing the Sanderson love around. Can you tell us a little bit about your painting process here too, like how you wind up starting a painting?
Yeah, so I'm not gonna lie, I haven't actually done like an oil painting in like 10 years. So I painted this first digitally, and so I know exactly what I'm doing, and my husband's just helping me mix the right colors because mixing is the first thing to go when you're digitally painting. And yeah, that's what I'm doing. I'm referencing my digital painting and just making it work on the canvas.
Well, the digital painting is, if you get anywhere close to that, it's going to be amazing. So I'm excited to see where this goes. So thank you for taking some time to tell us about your process and things there. So we've gone now to a lot of different. Okay. So we finished up with asking questions of all the artists here, and we're going to take some time now to talk to Natty from My Story Matters. Where would you like us to go stand? Right here. Well, hello, Natty.
Hi.
How are you doing?
I'm doing excellent. Thank you.
So you're with My Story Matters. Can you tell us a little bit about the mission of My Story Matters and how you got involved and just some thoughts about it?
Absolutely. Yes, My Story Matters, to put it in your terms that you'll understand, is a little bit like Kaladin visiting Bridge 4. We have an opportunity to take the concept of my hero's journey and put it into a curriculum that walks into places with underserved youth, incarceration, homelessness, and other avenues where we get an opportunity to share with them a journey that they get to remember that they're the captain of their own story and that they are the author of their own story. And so we walk into places where people have experienced hopelessness, depression, and quite frankly, they've lost sight of who they are and what they're capable of. And My Story Matters comes in and reminds them that they are, in fact, the captain of their story. And when they can understand that and come back in touch with their identity, great things can happen. We actually have, can I share a story of some experiences we've had? We had one gentleman in prison who the first time we met with him, we asked him what he wanted, and he said, Natty, there's no point in me having a purpose in my life. I will serve here longer than you will be alive. My parole officer hasn't even been born yet. We found out he was serving 6 life sentences. And over the course of time, he had no desire. He was in a constant state of trouble. He was getting write-ups and causing problems for everyone around him. He was on medication for depression and anxiety. And over time, we kept asking him what he wanted. What did he really want to do? Who was he? What could he really accomplish? And it took about 6 weeks for him to finally answer the question. He said, I want to be a helicopter pilot. And he said, but it's ridiculous because I can't ever be that, because I will always be an inmate and a felon. Over the course of continuing to work on his individual hero's journey, he began to recognize that he could be capable of something more and that his past did not have to define his future. He came in about 12 weeks later and he said, "I've figured it out. I'm not a helicopter pilot, I am a rescue pilot. And while I may never leave the walls of this prison, I can make sure that every man who does never returns because I took time to rescue them. I can take time to teach, I can take time to share, and I can take time to save." The fascinating part now is about a year later. If you were to ask anyone in that prison about this man, they would use 2 words to define him: happy and kind. He hasn't had a write-up since then. He's off of medication, and he's truly living a happy life despite the fact that he cannot change his current circumstances. And that's the idea behind what My Story Matters does, is a reminder that when you, in fact, are the captain of your story, you can do great things regardless of your past.
That is incredible. A couple of years ago, that's amazing. What an incredible purpose. And a couple of years ago, I got to attend a My Story Matters event, and we had a couple of people come through telling their experiences, and they were all very similar. And so I believe that this is a cause that is certainly worthy of all of our attention, that we can all help. Can you tell us how we can get involved with My Story Matters?
Yeah, My Story Matters is part of the Lightweaver Foundation, so every donation, including the silent auction money, gets to be part of what we're doing. But also there's an opportunity to donate directly. And like every good hero's journey, right when you think you're at the climax of joy, right when you think you're going to break through the big pain, something else happens. And we experienced an opportunity where we were given some funding, an opportunity to spread the work that we're doing significantly. And then we found out we can't even access that funding because we have to have money first. They will give us money after we've spent it, which doesn't really help all that much, right? So what we're doing here and how you can help is that if we can get the funds to unlock the door, more funds will come and we will be able to fund this program in perpetuity. And it doesn't just affect the people on the inside. One of my all-time favorite stories is of a mother who is currently incarcerated, and she grew up in a situation of foster care. Her background is hard to hear. By the time she was 3 years old, her mother was a drug addict, and she would actually put food in a bowl, and then she would tie her daughter up and leave the house for hours, and she would tie her inside of a circular location so that she couldn't get herself into trouble or get hurt. And all she had was this bowl of food. And as a 3-year-old, she lived that way all the way until she was 12. At 12 years old, she became homeless and turned to drugs and addiction herself. 5 children later, starting from the time she was 14 years old, all of those children ended up in foster care. As we started to work with her, she told me that the number one thing she believed about herself is that she was worthless. The second most important thing she believed about herself is that she was an addict. And the third most important part she believed about herself is that she was a failure as a mother. Today, she will look at you in the camera and tell you that for 5 generations, someone in her family has been incarcerated and has hurt their loved ones. And she will look at you and proudly say, "It will stop with me because I am an unstoppable woman." The power of regaining identity is critical. And every dollar that comes in gives us an opportunity to break through that. Right now, we feel like we're at like this gate where the only people's lives we can affect are the ones that can get to the gate because we cannot break through the gate. This is an opportunity for you to help us break through the gate. And once we do, the funding is there on the other side in perpetuity. This isn't something where you give one time and hopefully it works. This is an opportunity to give and create joy that spreads. This woman, the reason why she knows it will stop with her is because the funding that we have gotten, the little bit we have gotten, has gone to make sure every one of her children that aren't incarcerated are being taught about who they are and what they do. And every foster care family that's raising her children is being taught about who they are and what they're capable of, which is why we know we can make generational impact, and we cannot do it alone. We literally need you to help us be the Kaladin for our own Bridge 4. We need you to take that opportunity with us. We can't do it without you.
Well, thank you, Natty, for coming and telling us about My Story Matters. I think that's great. Change your story and change the future. So that's really great. Let's give everybody give Natty and My Story a round of applause.
And just a thank you for all of your support. So many people have stopped by the booth and have given donations, and we know that many more will. And we're just very, very grateful from the bottom of our hearts, and they will be grateful as well.
Well, thank you again for that. These are the sorts of things that you can do by going to the auction, helping Lightweaver out, really giving hope to people throughout the world with these different foundations that Lightweaver supports. So thank you, everybody, and thank you, Natty, for being here.
Thank you.
All right. Well, that was awesome. Really awesome. And how do you follow that up? Let's go and see if there's anybody who has a question here in the audience. And do we have any questions of what you're seeing the artists doing up here? Yes, let's bring a microphone over here. Okay.
I have one question for all the artists. Did they see the drawings before? Did they prepare before, or is this the first time that they are seeing them before they started painting?
Okay, I'll go over and ask them that. So the question is, if this is the first time that you've seen the picture that you're painting, or did you get some prep work to think about it beforehand? We'll just start here, and I'll just ask that question. Did you see these beforehand?
Yes, I did. I actually watched the live stream, so I got to see it come to fruition, which was quite nice.
Maybe I should ask this of Howard. Howard can maybe tell me. That way we can get... We should probably start here because you're the one who contacted all the artists.
Yeah, so I do believe everyone got a glimpse of their drawing before tonight to have a little bit of an idea of what they were going to be painting. So I was there with Brandon, so obviously I saw mine and the others that were going to be created, but I didn't want anyone to be completely surprised when they showed up because the drawings they're shocking. The drawings are shocking.
They are shockingly good.
Yes. Yeah, who knew that Brandon had mastered 2 arts, writing and drawing? Because, pretty spectacular.
So Brandon has spoken of this before when I think it was his first year of college, and I'm sorry if I get this wrong, but he did take an art class. He was interested in art, and he's surprisingly astute for a non-artist when he is looking at paintings and giving feedback. So I do believe that there's this artistic center that he does have. It's just that he chose to go down the writing path.
Well, in all seriousness, it's one of the things that makes Brandon's books so wonderful to create art for is he's very visual in the way that he writes. And so many of his books have artists in them. I mean, and even from the production standpoint of the books, like hiring you and then all of the artists that you and Brandon have in turn given opportunities. I don't know of any books that on a regular basis are released with so much art in them when they're not art books. So clearly art is very important to Brandon, and that makes me very happy to see that.
I think it's changed a little bit of the industry by adding the art into it. As ebooks became a bigger thing, a lot of people started gravitating back toward the physical books because you can add the art into it. You can add things and make a physical artifact that is different from the digital world. And I think that Brandon was at the forefront of that.
Yeah, it's fantastic. If anyone is going to change the industry in such a positive way, it's going to be Brandon. So it's wonderful.
I agree. Now, there was one artist that didn't see their painting beforehand. That was me. So I understand that there is a painting that I'm supposed to be doing at some point later with Steve. We'll get together and paint for about 3 hours. And I have not seen that, and I will continue to not see it until the point that I have to paint it.
That's exciting. I love it. That's exciting. Brace yourself. Eat a good hearty meal beforehand so that you're ready to take it all in.
I am so excited. I've heard about it, but I have not seen it, and I have not watched the live stream. So while we have you here, can you tell us a little bit about where you're at now on this Howard as Santa or Hoyd as Mall Santa?
Yeah, I'm starting to get everything kind of blocked in, and now I will do. I'm going to start working on what we call the form of it. So taking it from looking two-dimensional to start giving it, that form where things look rounded and they exist in a space. Thinking about the light source that's hitting Hoyd Santa, and I'm going to focus. I'm going to focus on the character, and then we'll see how far I get into the background. But it may be that I leave some of Brandon's pure drawing on the outside and paint the character in the middle. We'll see how far it gets.
I think that'd be awesome. There's so many master painters who do that. They leave pieces of the underpainting unpainted for artistic effect. I was at the MoMA, and I got to see the Starry Night that Van Gogh painted, and up near the edges of the painting there are like pencil marks, and it's a little bit unfinished.
Where you licked it?
Yeah, that was where I licked it, but don't tell anybody in New York. Okay.
That's been an ongoing fun anecdote with Isaac. His ambition in the art world is to
I would really love to lick a Van Gogh. Now, I stole this ambition from one of my art director friends. I didn't realize it because it had become so much a part of my psyche. But Sean Boyles was describing a Van Gogh one time, and he's like, "It looks so good. You could just go up there and lick it." And I was like, "Oh, I love that. I need that. I need to feel that texture." So, if anybody has a Van Gogh that I could lick, we'll have conservationists on hand to fix it. But I would love that.
I think that's a ambitious goal. We'll see what happens with it. And someday you'll go and look at this painting in the MoMA, I'm sure.
And I'll lick it. And I'll invite Sean along, and you too, if you want. But maybe the fry sauce painting, maybe I could lick that one. All right, let's go back over here to Brian. Let's see where you're at.
All right, so Brandon is a neo-Dada expressionist, and I'm more of a alla prima impressionist. So that's like polar opposites, right? And so I'm grappling with this, trying to figure out how I can control this while these lines are driving me absolutely nuts. So anyway, we're still working on this. We'll figure it out, but it'll go through some various changes and things like that as I try and decide what this thing's going to be.
So when I first looked at the drawing over here, before you started painting it, I thought it was a doom slug on a beach with like palm trees and an umbrella over him. So now I see that we've got the DDF ships and the doom slug is on detritus. So I have been my mental image of this has been corrected, and I think you're doing a fantastic job. I'm going to ask you kind of a technical question. So there's a lot of artists, especially those who are beginning at painting, who sometimes when they're mixing the paints and then they get them on the panel, they can get muddied and gray after a while. And yet you're able to kind of keep the vibrancy of each of the colors. You're very intentional about that. How do you keep the vibrancy of the colors and keep from muddying things up?
All right, one of the main tricks about keeping things from being muddy is understanding, like I said at the beginning, my light source and also the temperature of that light source, whether it's warm or cool. And so I want to make sure that the things that need to be cool stay cool, and the things that are warm stay warm. Because if I get those mixed up, or if I'm not right on where things are warm and cool, if I'm ambivalent about that or uncertain, then it will go muddy. And my feeling is there's no such thing as a muddy color. It's only the wrong temperature, or temperature and value in combination. So there you go.
An interesting thing, thank you, Brian, on that. An interesting thing about color is that it's all relative. And so you can take a color that would look warm in one situation, and you put it next to a color that's warmer than it, and suddenly it becomes cooler. It's like putting on sunglasses.
Exactly. So, color is the most relative thing in art. You can make what looks green down on your palette by putting it in a certain spot. You can actually make it look red. You can totally switch the color depending on how you play with it. So when people ask me a question like, how did you mix that color? To me, it's you're thinking of it's the wrong thing to be thinking about. You want to think about, why is this warm, or why is this cool? Why is this more saturated or less saturated in a certain location on the piece? You want to understand it in relative terms, not in absolute terms.
So I think this is a good time to tell a story. When I was in college, I was an industrial design major. Eventually turned into the animation degree there, and I was dating a lady in college, and she would always introduce me as, this is my boyfriend, Isaac. He's majoring in coloring. And maybe there was a reason that didn't work out. But now, where I'm here, I'm like, yeah, my major was pretty much coloring. We had a meeting the other day, and Sean will joke about this. Sean Boyle's one of my art directors. We had a 2-hour meeting on the color red, just because we were trying to figure out what color of red we should do the Dragonsteel logo. And we just had all these different discussion points on these different colors of red. And we wound up coming up with a color for the Dragonsteel logo that is called Dragonsteel Fire Burning Bright Red. And that's the actual name that we named it. So anyway, colors. It's great.
So one thing about colors is that color gets all the credit, but value does all the work. And that doesn't make a whole lot of sense unless you do years and years of value studies and you realize how important that is. However, so I can't blame Brandon for my values or my color. That's all on me. Certainly the drawing, is awesome in its own way, but still you can. A lot of times with a painting, we often say, oh, I can't draw super well, and so I can't compose or do a good painting. And that's not true, because there are other elements. And there are artists that folk couldn't draw super well. Cezanne was one of them. He's terrible, but he focused on other things like mark making and color and textures and flattening spaces and things like that. And so he created beautiful art even without that component. At least for an illustrator, drawing is such a important pillar. But in the whole scope of art, especially as things have gone from postmodern or post-impressionism on, there are so many other aspects of art that have been explored and that make great paintings.
Well, thank you, Brian, for our discussion on color tonight and on value. One of the things you can do to check the value of your painting is take a photograph of it, bring it into a something like Photoshop, or even into just some of the apps on your phone, and just desaturate it and see how well the forms still read. And if everything is kind of gray and muddy, you might need to take a look at your light source and figure out where your brightest brights are and your darkest darks, and go from there. But that's one thing that we tell people to do.
Absolutely. Yeah, and so when if you're trying to create a focal point, and in illustrations they all have focal points, you're going to see, the sharpest edges, the greatest contrast, the most interesting shapes, and the highest contrast of color and value, and that'll create your focal point.
And that was your masterclass on everything artistic tonight. And I'm not even kidding. You get some of these basics down, and everything after that is kind of frosting. Maybe, I don't know. I'm not as good of a painter as you guys, but I think those basics really will go a long way to getting your painting somewhere where you can feel proud of it. So, thanks, Brian. Thanks, Howard. All right. Do we have any questions right now that you would like to ask? We've got one back here.
I was looking at the dragon, and I just was wondering if that was Spook as a dragon, or what's the purpose behind it?
Okay, we'll go over here and talk to Caitlin about that. So the question is that Spook as a dragon, or what is the thought behind this?
If you ask Brandon, it's Zorro, but apparently tonight it's Spook.
So the answer there is apparently to Brandon it's Zorro, but tonight, if you want to imagine it as Spook, you can. So can you tell us how it's, since I'm here anyway, can you tell me how it's going? How are things working out for a Spook, not a dragon, Zorro tonight? Or no, he is a dragon. Dragon, not a Spook, Zorro. How's it working out?
Doing pretty good. Normally my dragons are a little bit more detailed, but I'm making it work. It's happening. Yeah.
I like that you've added this scale texture to him.
I cannot do a dragon without scales, so I definitely had to add in that texture. It's one of my favorite things about painting dragons is their scales.
I love it. I love where it's going. Is there anything else that you want to say about your painting right now?
No, not yet. We're still making the magic happen. So.
Okay. Still making the magic happen. How are we doing over here with Colonel Sanderson and the vengeance machine?
He will have his vengeance, and then I will have my vengeance on Brandon.
It looks like you've got some form coming now. You're kind of rounding things out. Are you also thinking about a light source and how that's how that affects the painting?
Yeah, so I was trying to think of what I could do with the chicken that made it, scary and mistborny and stuff like that. So I decided that underlighting is always creepy, scary, especially red underlighting. So I'm kind of doing a warm red-orange underlighting, and then I'm going to do kind of a rim light to accent the contour and the silhouette from the moon, which Scadrial does not have. But on the live stream, Brandon was like, it'd just be cooler with a moon, so I figure it's canon now.
No, it cannot be canon. Scadrial can have no moon. So I think he must be a world hopper Inquisitor chicken. I mean, that could be the only in the process of world hopping.
I think you're onto something there. I think that's what's happening. He's killed all the chicken eaters on Scadrial, and I don't know where he's jumping, but
He heard that there are chickens on Roshar that he needs to avenge, and I think he's in for a surprise.
Maybe he could be a shard-bearing Inquisitor chicken Avenger. I think that's the sequel to this piece.
That sounds like that's the sequel, but he's world hopping somewhere from Scadrial on the left to Scadrial on the left to wherever, maybe going toward Roshar on the right. They have 3 moons on Roshar, though, so it must be just... Well, they come out at different times of night, so yeah, anyway.
Hard time.
Well, it's looking great. Do you have anything else you'd like to say about it before we move on?
I too am trying to decide how if I want to change the drawing at all. I don't think I'm going to change, but I think I'm going to add some things. So
I'm excited to see what you add here. It's looking really great, Steve. Nice job. All right. Do we have any other questions right now, or we also could get questions from the live stream, I think, too, if we need to. Erica, there's a question right here in the front.
My apologies.
Oh, you're good.
Chat.
You're good.
For any artist, do you have a favorite and a least favorite oil paint?
Okay. We'll need to go to, let's go down here to Esther that I know she paints in oils. So the question is there a favorite oil paint and a least favorite oil paint?
Are we talking color or brand?
Are we talking color or brand? Either or both. let's not talk about least favorite brands, but we can talk about our favorite brands of paint.
Favorite brands, I use a lot of Winsor & Newton and Gamblin. Those are kind of my go-tos. And color, that's a hard one. I use a ton of transparent earth red in my paintings. I love starting with like a rusty underpainting. And then right now I'm using a ton of phthalo blues and greens, which I don't usually use, but it's been fun branching into those for these paintings because half of this book happens in misty blue darkness. So I've been going through a lot of tubes of blue.
Yeah, one of the challenges of this book is, and I don't want to get too much into spoilers, but the challenges of the book is it's called Ember Dark, right? And the challenge of getting colors into the Ember Dark. But I think you're doing a fantastic job right now, even on this quick piece.
Thank you. Yeah, it's a lot of muted value tones, so questioning my control of values at the moment for sure.
So it looks like you're getting really close on a lot of the background here. Can you still see the snaky thing?
Yep. Faintly right there. I'm going to punch it in some glowy paint in just a minute, so it'll really be popping out soon.
That's awesome. It's looking really great. All right, Kari, do you have any favorite and least favorite paints or favorite brands?
So many. Lots of paint. For acrylic, I enjoy the Winsor & Newton Professional because you get some color shift when the acrylic dries. So I use a titanium white from them. And then I like open acrylics that dry slower, more like oils. And for oil paint, I don't know if there's an oil paint I really lean towards. I do like the Galkid if I need to need it to dry faster. So I think Winsor & Newton makes it like a Griffin Alkyd paint that we can mix with your oils. So speeds things up nicely.
Well, the painting's coming along here. How are you feeling about it? Where are you at in the process, and how are you feeling with how it's coming along? I think it's looking awesome.
Oh, thanks. Well, most of the background's laid in now, and now I'm just starting to lay in the big shapes for the characters. So actually, the acrylic's drying slower than I expect. Like, it's still actually a little wet, so almost is feeling like oils right now.
Yeah, Donato was saying that too. I wonder if it's like a little more like humid in this room or something like that, and it's keeping a little bit more of the moisture.
I think so. All the people.
Yeah. Well, in Utah, you would be thinking that it'd be drying out faster. So, thanks, Kari. I'm going to come down here and ask the question of Donato. I want to know about his favorite paints. So the question is, favorite paints or paint brand, or least favorite paint, but not least favorite paint brand?
Oh, I actually use probably close to maybe close to a dozen different paint brands. So they are colors that I've just acquired over the years, and when I find a color that I like from a certain manufacturer, I just stick with it. I'm very kind of true to that because I once I find out how a color mixes, how the pigment interacts with other pigments, then I like to stay with that knowledge so it doesn't interfere with the fluidity of how I'm working, how quickly I can work, the confidence I have, because a lot of painting is about technical understanding of what you're doing with the media. And if you can free yourself up from having to think about complications, if things can just flow like breathing, then you can spend your mental resources on other aspects of your visual development. And that's what I find is if I know my materials, if they're not impeding me in any way, then I can be more creative with design, with color ideas or compositional choices.
I think that's fantastic process there. It's like learn what you like, stick with the things that you've learned, can stay consistent. Now I have another question that's kind of a follow-up. What is your favorite color, or do you have one?
Well, going back to my brands, like I definitely prefer Holbein, Rembrandt, Old Holland, and Utrecht. Those 4 are kind of my go-to for a lot of my colors. But you're talking about just color in general? Yes. Oh, just actually, I'll play on what Brian was mentioning, is that it's just I like to stay with cool, warm relationships. So my favorite color combo is typically like a red-green relationship, which is actually what I'm doing here with Brandon's hand, is a warm yellow, orangey, red, warm light, and then a cool temperatured blue, green, gray for the reflective environment for it.
I think it's looking fantastic here. I love how the sword hit the reflections and things on the sword is coming out. And I've seen a lot of your paintings with armor and robots and things, and you're a master painter. I think you're also a master at painting reflective surfaces.
Oh, yeah, thank you. That's one of those little gimmicks that I've picked up over the years of trying to do something that other people aren't doing. And so when I entered the field decades ago, I noticed that many people or artists weren't devoting as much of their energies towards referencing reflective metallic surfaces for like suits of armor and things and spacesuits. So I just dove in and embraced that. And so I leaned into that area that I was easy and good at. And that helped, I think, establish my reputation as a new young artist for the book cover industry.
Well, that's perfect. That's a really good point for those who are trying to break into art, is to find out what makes you stand out from other artists and lean into it, because then publishers and clients will start coming to you for what you do, if that makes any sense.
Yeah, it's great. Yeah, exactly. Yep. Lean into your strengths, challenge yourself to grow into new areas. And then you just like keep inching forward that way, and soon you'll have a great body of work.
Thank you, Donato. Do we have another question that we could give here? We have another question right here on the front.
Yes, okay. Can you hear me? Yeah, so not to state the obvious, but this is a kind of non-traditional environment to be doing paintings like this. So I was curious for all of the artists here, with the time constraints they've got and the added stimulation, how do they approach working right now maybe differently, if at all, from how they would normally? Not just sort of what they're doing, but what they're not doing that they maybe would be doing just because they have time back at home or back at the studio if they had more time to be working on these paintings.
Okay. We will ask that question over here. I think, Katie, you're a good one for this because this is very different from your normal process. But I am curious, and hopefully this will answer your question of how things are different. You mentioned that you normally work digitally. What are the similarities? Are there similarities and differences between your working digitally and here working in a physical media?
So the differences I can think of right now is I with my iPad, I will curl up in my comforter and I'll curl up on my couch and I'll just have Netflix, and I can do that in my living room. And that's what I love about the flexibility of my iPad. While my husband is stuck in his studio, oil painting away, slaving away in a certain spot. I love the freedom of going wherever I want. But right now, painting, this is bringing me back to when I first met my husband, it's almost our anniversary, 13 years ago. And we were in a painting class together, and I was so messy, I'd get paint all over myself, and I just got it all over my coat. And it's just bringing me back because my husband's right here. Anyway, this is fun. Good memories.
Nostalgia here for your anniversary, which congratulations, 13 years. That's awesome. How are things coming along right now?
Yeah. Give me my hand.
And in my family, number 13 is a lucky number because we were married on the 13th. I have a child born on the 13th. So 13 years. This is a lucky number.
Absolutely, I love lucky numbers. But it's coming along. The painting's coming along right. I'm painstakingly trying to keep the integrity of Brandon's lines, his eyebrows. I hear people behind me explaining like the eyebrows are something Brandon drew. You know, I was like, yeah, thanks for explaining that. You know, it's like that's part of the success of the painting is he needs to maintain those lines that he had. Also, I need to go in like 10 minutes because I have a panel.
So one thing I noticed about this drawing, and this is not to, again, make fun of the drawing of Brandon's, but the knife looks a little like a hypodermic needle. So right now it's kind of like Nurseborn.
I know, and she's like holding onto the blade, which we're just gonna have to roll with. I don't know, like should I add blood? I didn't even think of that, but
I think we still want Vin to be competent, and I think what you've, well, I don't know.
She's holding the blade. I don't know. It's integrity, competence. We'll have to find the balance.
I think that she just must be so confident in her abilities that she can hold the blade like that, and it's okay. Well, I mean, she can heal things.
Right, it's pewter. It's pewter. That's it.
That's pewter. Yep, she's burning pewter and steel.
That's what it is. We figured it out. We're good. No blood.
I'm really enjoying the colors on this too. It's really, I love that there are lights and I mean, we've talked about this with Mistborn before, and one of the things that I see a lot in Mistborn paintings is that the city kind of looks dead at night. And it's like, this is not Castlevania. This is Mistborn. People live in the city, and I love that you have lights in the houses.
Yeah, actually, when you bring that up, you know, when we worked on the Mistborn deck building game together, we talked a lot about the lighting at night. Like, and it was I actually thought of that when I was mapping this out. It was your idea to really push the blues. And I mean, you can see that right here. And I pulled this color palette from our work on the Mistborn deck building game. And yeah, so yeah, it's kind of fun. You just reminded me. That is fun. Yeah.
So the Mistborn deck building game looks gorgeous. In part because of Katie was working on that, and I want to give a round of applause to Katie and to Brotherwise, because I think that we're seeing Mistborn kind of come out in a way that we haven't before, and it's really getting its own identity.
Yeah, that was a lot of fun fleshing out the visuals, and it's like we said, Mistborn, just because the planet is dead and suffering, you can still have a beautiful world. You can have rich sunset colors during the day. You can have these ambient misty blues at night. It's really cool how you can make it beautiful still. So yeah.
Well, thank you, Katie. It's looking great, and thank you again for your work on the Mistborn game and the RPG. You're doing a great job. All right, so we have now Jennifer Jenkins coming on to chat with us about Operation Literacy. Oh, and Jennifer also project managed the entire Lightweaver space at Nexus. So I remember seeing you over at Dragonsteel headquarters a few times. Yeah, probably more than a few times. Just really putting things together, working with Jane and the team. So thank you so much for doing that.
Privilege. It was so much fun, and it's such a good cause. It was an honor.
Well, thank you for that. Let's talk about Operation Literacy here for a minute. Can you tell us a bit about the mission of Operation Literacy and maybe how you got involved, if you'd like?
Sure. Operation Literacy is a 501c3 nonprofit that is supported by Lightweaver as one of their primary charities, and we are all about connecting children with books. We believe that literacy unlocks a successful future for every child. And at Operation Literacy, we run two main programs to try and fulfill our mission of supporting children's literacy. And so the first is we have a program called Book Drop. And in our Book Drop program, we've given over 30,000 books to children in Title I schools over the last 3 years. And the schools that we go into, 60% of the kids that we serve have never owned a book in their home before. And Brandon Sanderson believes firmly that books are a physiological need. They're part of the food, shelter, and books. Like, we need all of those things to be able to lead happy lives. And we know that children are 80% more likely to actually read those books if they've met the author. And so with the book drop program, we bring in authors to come and workshop with kids. And then the kids, every child in the school gets a free copy of that author's book signed. So it's pretty awesome. Our other program that we run is called StoryCon, formerly known as Teen Author Boot Camp. We help children learn how to tell their stories. And we connect them with some of the most popular authors in the country to do that. And so at StoryCon in February, it'll be at the Salt Palace. We're bringing in author Jeff Kinney, for example, the author of Diary of a Wimpy Kid, Marissa Meyer, Shannon Hale, Brandon Mull, Lainey Taylor, Neil Schusterman, author of Scythe, Christopher Paolini, and so many others. We have almost 90 authors that participate in the event. And we have tracks to support teens and tweens and educators and even a general public track. But we just appreciate Lightweaver because it's really helped us do so much good, and especially in helping raise the next generation of readers and writers. So.
Well, those are fantastic goals. And I'm so glad that Lightweaver and Brandon and Emily can support in that. Can you let us know how we can get involved?
Yes. Right now at Dragonsteel and online, if you go to storycon.org/donate, you can donate $3 to help us reach our scholarship goal. At StoryCon, we try to scholarship 10% of the kids that come into our programs. And those scholarships go to kids in foster care. They go to kids who live in rural areas and Title I schools. So you can help us raise money that way. That's a really big thing. You can also click volunteer on our website. You can help us at our events. You can help us at book drops. You can put stickers in books for us and help us pass them out to kids. We love all of that. We really need everybody's help if we can to really make impact. So thank you.
Well, thank you, Jennifer, for coming on and telling us a little bit about what you do. And do you have anything else you'd like to say before we move on here?
You know, I think if I had the chance to just tell a story, if that's really quick, a really short story, one of the things that we do, we publish about 80 kids every year in anthologies and poetry collections and things like that. And these programs really make an impact on these kids' life. They help build confidence. One of my favorite moments at our StoryCon events is the moment when we announce a winner of our first chapter contest, and we see the kid. I always pan the crowd and I look for the winner because we read their words. We don't announce their name, we read their words. And the moment that a child hears their words, it's very impactful. And it's really life-changing for them. And so if I could choose a moment, that's probably it. You know, so definitely thank you for supporting Lightweaver because they help us do the good that we do. Please visit us at storycon.org, and thanks for the opportunity to talk about it.
Well, thank you for that, and thank you again for all your help here at the Dragonsteel Lightweaver booth. And please visit StoryCon, and can you give us that website again?
It's storycon.org. And /donate if you want to join us in trying to build up our scholarship fund. So thank you.
All right. Thank you, Jennifer, for being here. Let's give her a round of applause for them. Thank you. All right. Well, I'm learning all sorts of awesome things about what Lightweaver is doing. Earlier, or it was last night, Brandon mentioned the goals of Lightweaver, and they were to feed mouths, feed minds, and there was one other. Can somebody help me with this? It's on your back. Thank you. Feed bodies, fill minds, and fuel hope. I loved that. And I think that these other charities that Lightweaver works with are really doing those things, making a huge difference in the world. Now, it looks like we might have a question from online. Okay, we have a question from the live stream.
Yep. Our question comes from Tommy TK. What is your favorite magic card or a card you would like to do customized art for?
Okay, so this is for our artists here who have done magic cards. Okay, your favorite magic card that you've done or that you like to customize. Okay, I'm going to go over here to, and if I don't know if who all has done magic cards here. I know Howard has, I know Steve has, Donato has. Am I missing anybody? Kari has. Kari's done some. Has anybody else done a magic card here that I'm missing? I don't want to skip over one of you. Okay. Well, let's start here with Steve. Can you tell us about what card you like to customize, and or what card you also is one of your favorites that you've done for Magic?
So one of my favorite cards that I've done for Magic is a card that no one ever uses. It's terrible. For people who play Magic, it's a 4/4 that does nothing for 7 mana. And it's the worst. It was from the Battle Bond set, and it's called Spellweaver Duo. And it's a spell-casting couple, and they're kind of casting this spell together. And I just really like how the artwork turned out. I was really excited for people to see it, and when it spoiled online, everybody was just like, this is the worst card I've ever seen. You know, the art doesn't matter if the card is that bad. So that's my favorite, like, unsung piece. As far as customizing goes, I have done a really lot of Liliana of the Veil. My favorite way to customize it is to make it absolutely ridiculous. Like, turn her into a squid person, or just really, really crazy stuff. Because part of that is that when people make requests, it's usually like, I want you to turn her into my favorite anime character, or this other Magic character, or something like that. And that's fun, but I've done a lot of that. So I prefer to, I just call it artist choice, and I warn people that it is going to be extremely weird. And so far, everybody has been really delighted with those. So that's my favorite way and card to customize.
In the future, are we going to see her wearing like a chicken onesie?
So that has happened already. I'm so kidding me? Yes. More than once, in fact. I said they were weird. I mean, they have gone lots weirder than a chicken onesie.
I think this is where we stop, huh?
Family-friendly stream. Actually, I should say I don't do like risque or violent or anything like that. When I say like they're crazy weird, they're just crazy weird.
Weirder than Chicken Inquisitor jumping over chicken nuggets, holding hatchets, and going to Roshar?
Weirder than that, but I think that's going to be the next one I do.
Okay, I'm looking forward to seeing that. Thanks, Steve.
Sure, thank you.
All right, I've got Donato over here, who is also well. Actually, you guys can. Okay, we'll do that. So sorry, I need to read the room. I'm so sorry about that. Donato, you've done a lot of Magic cards too. I'll tell you my favorite of yours here in just a minute, because I want to see. I don't want to steal your thunder if it happens to be your favorite as well. So, what is your favorite card to alter, and what is your favorite card that you have painted for Magic?
Well, I actually don't do that many alters. So when I do, one of the favorites is something that's kind of simple. It's Chrome Mox, because it's mostly one of those shiny metal circles. So the fact that it's so simple as a graphic image means that it can be transformed into all sorts of objects, from baseballs to basketballs to snowmen to rings to the Death Star. I think that was probably my favorite alter, was turning the Chrome Mox into the Death Star with a bunch of X-Wings and TIE fighters surrounding it, flying away from it. Yeah.
Well, that's great. And do you have a favorite that you've painted for Magic?
No, I mean, not to be honest, no, I don't. There are many favorites, and each time I tackle a project for, both for Wizards of the Coast or for book covers, I treat them as separate entity. So I'm trying to find visual solutions for each project that can make it unique, that make it challenging for myself, make it interesting. So over the years, there certainly have been some great works, like the 7th edition Shivan Dragon was one of my favorites. Recently, there's a Cut of the Prophets from the Streets of New Capenna. And even more recently was a Demonic Tutor, where they gave me really free reign to interpret the demon and the alkali who was reading and the book. And so it just really gave me a tremendous amount of freedom to bring my passion for storytelling to the works.
I've seen that one. That's a really awesome card. My favorite, I think, is the cartographer that you did. Is it campaign cartographer? What is the? It's just cartographer. That's my favorite of yours, just because that connection with maps, and I do the fantasy maps. I look at that and I kind of like read into it. And one of the amazing things about it is I'm like, you painted a person, and then you painted like all of these maps that look authentic. And I'm like, how did he do that? I have a hard time just doing that on a flat surface, making a map, and your maps looked fantastic.
Well, those are actually, I took when I was in, I think just before cartographer, my wife and we made a trip into the Netherlands, and we went. I just love maps too, and I bought a bunch of these old maps, copies of them, and so in cartographer are actually maps of the Netherlands water line. So they're actually I photocopied them and then redrew over them, so they're actually real. This is before they told you not to use real things in the map. So yes, you are a cartographer. I am not trying to pretend and take credit for other people's extreme labor in cartographer, but my love of maps shows in the background. The background map is that one of the Netherlands.
Well, that's fantastic. That's a cool little Easter egg to learn about that one. So thank you for telling us about those. Yeah.
Yep, you're welcome.
Well, that's awesome. I love that card. There's so many cards that these artists have done that I really love. We're going to come over here to Howard, and then we'll finish up this question with Kari. So Howard, what is your favorite magic card that you've painted? And also, what's your favorite one to alter?
I think my favorite magic card is probably Angel of Flight Alabaster that I've painted. And it was a card that in my career, when I did it, it kind of changed the way that I perceived what I could do for magic and do for illustration in general. It felt very true to me. And before that, I was more concerned about just kind of checking the boxes, fulfilling what the art order said, that sort of thing. And this one was like, this is what I want to do, and the art director let me do that. And so it just kind of broadened my horizons, and said, ooh, there's a lot more that is possible here than what I've done before. One of my favorite cards to alter is one of the very first magic cards that I did, and it is Rings of Brighthearth. And I've painted them as onion rings in fry sauce and, all kinds of things. But on 3 occasions now, I've painted them as people's wedding rings, and it's been used for people to propose. So there's 3 marriages out there that I hope are still intact and going strong, because it started with using a Rings of Brighthearth card with the rings painted like their wedding rings. So I thought that was really fun, and I was honored that I was asked to do that.
I hope those were magical engagements.
Nice.
Sorry, dad joke. Where are my kids? Are my kids here? Oh boy. Thank you, Howard. All right, Kari. Favorite card magic card of yours that you've painted for magic, and favorite card to alter.
Okay. Well, I did have a lot of fun with Unholy Heat, because I love Innistrad, and that was my first card. I got to kind of play in that world, and I got to design the character for the card, and then also it's been a pretty effective card in the game. so that was good. I don't do too many alters, but I do like altering the Chaos Wand, because once again, they're talking about how the graphic shape of a card can be adapted to a lot of things. So I've turned that into Link's sword. I've turned it into various Harry Potter wands. So that's a fun one to alter.
All right. Thank you, Kari. Yeah, and that card that you were saying that was your favorite, that's fantastic. I love that card. It's so beautiful. You did such a great job with that. All right, let's see if we have another question that we could answer. We have one right here. So
we have one from the audience.
We have one from the audience.
And
Okay.
They'd like to know who Esther is drawing, but we have to ask you to find out if we can know.
Isaac can make that mistake, not me. Well, I'm going to RAFO that. I am going to RAFO that particular thing because you're going to see soon enough what she is painting when you get your hands on the book. So let's...
we have another one.
We have
so
another
we
one,
can
okay.
Get you out of that. Question for the artist. When's the last time you used simple stick figure drawings?
Okay. We're going to go right here since we're here with Esther. When was the last time you used simple... We might not be able to answer this one either. Should we answer this?
Every time I send Isaac proposals, you're doing this in the scene. That's how he gets proposals from me.
But maybe we can say a little bit about... Can we spoil the in pages just a little bit? So, okay, I'm not going to say what they are, but when was the last time you used stick figures as an underpainting?
For the end papers?
For the end papers of Emberdark. Anyway, you'll have to see what we mean when we get it. They are fantastic. They're gorgeous. And she's really killing it with these, with the art that she's doing for this book. How's this painting coming along? I love the glow.
Better than I expected. I don't hate my life right now, so we're doing okay. Well, we'll see if it tanks after this, but so far so good.
Okay, thank you. Should we ask another question here? Do we have a? I know there was a question here in the front. Yeah, this one right here. Okay, perfect.
Noticed Esther was stepping back, and I wondered if she could just talk about what she was looking for when she was stepping away from her painting.
Okay, perfect. So the question is, when you're stepping back from your painting, what are you doing?
It's mostly to get the big picture of the relationships in the painting, especially for something like this where you're working in a really contracted value and color scheme. Also, the lighting in here is not fantastic. So it's really easy when you've got your nose literally up against the canvas to focus on the little details and not the relationship of the big parts to each other.
Okay, thank you. All right. Remember, if you would like to, you're welcome to come up, look over their shoulder a little bit. Please watch the chords. But if you would like to, you're welcome to kind of look over the artist's shoulders and see what they're doing. We're going to check in with Brian here. Oh boy. How's it going, Brian?
Yeah, I'm trying to decide. I'm trying to decide how to make this work. This is truly one of those things where there's an oil and water thing going on, in terms of so one thing, the way I paint, you won't see any lines. I do not, lines don't exist in nature, and so this is almost like I'm trying to grapple with another reality simultaneously, trying to deal with these lines. So this is good. This is pushing me to my very limit. So there you have it.
I think it's looking great. I think you're really doing a great job, though. It's really turning out nicely. Howard, yours is turning out pretty good here too.
Thanks. I gotta say, when Brian was talking right there, it reminded me of that meme where the dog's sitting at the kitchen table and everything's burning down around them, and they're like, "This is fine. Everything is fine." But I also know, well, one, Brian's is looking really fun. It's very cool. And the whole point of these is just to create something fun and painting on top of the quirky drawings that Brandon gave us. So for all of the artists here, there really is no pressure. Just make something that is going to raise some money and be a little piece of history that's a great artifact. So,
yeah, these are all turning out really, really fun. Yeah. Okay, while we're here with Howard, we have a question for him.
It comes from online. Broken Red Flag asks, I would like to ask Howard Lyon his favorite Stormlight covers.
Okay. So of his covers or any Stormlight covers? Okay. So Howard, the question is, what are your favorite Stormlight covers?
Yeah, I think for me it has to be Wayland's Way of Kings. It's just so beautiful and so wonderful. Like it has. I love clouds. I love the epic fantasy, the narrative of it. And then I think my second favorite is Miranda's cover for the novella. What was the name? I just remember the art. I don't remember the title of it. Shadows of.
Oh, so yeah, that one was another Cosmere novella called Shadows for Silence in the Forests of Hell.
Yeah, that painting is so beautiful to me. Sam Weber's beautiful paintings that he did for Mistborn, I love. Going far back, the original Mistborn covers are so beautifully, like all of the designs and movement in that John Foster did were gorgeous. I mean, there's been a whole list of beautiful images, but at the top of it is Wayland's for Way of Kings.
He's really done a great job, and his latest here, kind of finishing off this first arc with Brandon, just is epic. All of them are just epic and look beautiful. Thanks, Howard. All right. Oh, okay. So we have a question here for Brian and Caitlin. So we'll start with Brian, and then we'll go over to Caitlin. So the question is, what have you done in the past? What art have you done? Maybe you could tell us what art you've done for the Cosmere, but also kind of like what type of art do you do?
Okay, so my background is in fine art, and that, what does that mean? Because I consider all of the artists here as fine artists as well. Certainly, there's the distinction between art that you just make for yourself versus a client, and maybe that's the biggest delineation. The other thing is my art that I do is not narrative typically. My gallery paintings and gallery work that I do a lot of plein air painting as well, which is painting outdoors. So you can see some of the easels here are the Strata easel, and that's an easel that I designed. People use it around the world, and it's great that the artists here are all using the easel and supporting the brand. I love it. Okay, so I do a lot of traveling. I'm actually headed to Indonesia right after this. So I've been a lot of places around the world. This year I was in Cambodia and India. So that was very fun to paint in those locations. And I try and get all different kind of places around the world. I really want to be able to see all of it before I die. So that's what these plein air easels are for, is to be able to throw them in your backpack and travel around. And so that's been my career, is traveling and painting is a big part of my life. And so what I've wanted to do is bring that knowledge of traveling the world, seeing different landscapes, and try and bring that in, those kinds of things into Brandon's world. So for example, the piece I did for Teteller in Warbreaker, it has a very tropical Mayan sort of vibe to it. So Central South America is kind of the inspiration for that, and that's what I felt from the way he described the landscape and the basically the humidity, the warmth, and the environment. So, and the color as well. If you go to places in Central South America, you get so much color and vibrancy, and so that was one of the inspiration for that, and that's because of some of the travels that I've done.
Well, thank you, Brian. And yeah, that piece that you did of Teteller is just fantastic. It's so beautiful. And I'm going to toot the horn of the paper that we printed on. I love the paper that we print these on in the books. We looked for a long time to find a paper that, a lot of the paper we use is from Italy, and it has a certain substance on it that allows us to get very vibrant colors. So if you've seen that, the latest paper we've been using in the leather bounds really gets a lot of the vibrancy that you see in the original.
Yeah, it gives it kind of a pearlish quality to it, which is really interesting. And I think, you know, with papers like that and the kind of the attention to detail you guys would put in the books, that's what makes these books so fun to have, you know. And I think you've really brought that love of having and holding a book, you know, because of those kinds of details you put into it. And it's just so fun to be a part of that, you really pay attention to the artists and trying to enhance that work. And it just makes it an amazing thing. I think, and everybody's taking notice, obviously. It's been amazing. Super excited about the Wheel of Time it'll be so cool. Sign me up.
Okay. I'll put you on the list. So, I don't know what I was about to say, but that's important to me, is being able to recreate the colors in the books if we can. And sometimes, and well, a lot of times, you can't get the same vibrancy with just your traditional CMYK printing process. And there's been a lot of new processes that are coming out, and we're looking into those, of being able to extend the color range of what we can do with the books. I can't make any promises yet, but we've got some promising options of being able to add like more vibrancy to the colors in the books in the future. So we're exploring that. So cool. Thanks, Brian. Okay, we're going to come over here and talk to Caitlin. First off, wow, this is starting to come together. This is looking really good.
Thank you. I'm having a lot of fun.
It's kind of like you've painted dragons before.
Just a little bit, yeah.
It's looking really great. So the question was, what other things have you done? What are you known for? I mean, we know you're known for dragons, but what are some of the professional projects and things that you've done?
Most of my favorite projects have actually been through Grimoak Press, who did the anthology for this year's Dragonsteel. I did the Dragon Riders of Pern. I did the interiors for the first book, and the cover and interiors for the second and third book, with the white dragon, obviously Ruth being my favorite. So.
Well, that is so awesome. What a dream project to be able to go back and actually paint for the Dragon Riders of Pern.
Oh, absolutely. It was a dream project and no pressure at all. Just zero pressure.
Oh, yeah. I imagine that would, from the pressure side of things, really a dream project, but also the books have been around for a while, and those dragons have been interpreted in different ways. Was there a different way that you, because of all the history that came with it, that you approached that project?
I actually got to recreate the design that Todd Lockwood did on the first cover. So I came into the project afterwards, after he unfortunately didn't have enough time to finish it because he was working on his art book and his own anthology. So it was really fun getting to see the way that Todd Lockwood did the wings and just kind of replicate that in my style.
That's awesome. So as we're looking here at your painting, here's a question, kind of a technique and style question that I'd like to ask you, because a lot of artists, especially when they're starting out, if they want to go dark, they just paint black. But what I'm seeing here on yours is I'm seeing you're going dark, but you're adding colors into it. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
So I like to always tone my canvas really lightly with color first, usually brown, and then I'll slowly just bring in the darks kind of as a whole on the piece, just figuring out exactly where I want the darkest darks and the lightest lights, such as like on the dragon's head. I want the dragon's head to stand out the most, so all of my darkest colors are going to be butting up against the dragon's head right here so that I can have it popping out. And a lot of times beginning artists will put dark everywhere or light everywhere, and so I'm trying to make sure that I'm putting dark in, but I'm paying attention to what's next to it and making sure that it's not dark down here where I want the cape to kind of fade out into the painting, and same with the wings, like especially on this side, Brandon, the wings aren't quite symmetrical. That's okay. So I'm trying to make that a little bit softer than this edge and have all my soft edges kind of be down here around the bottom with those nice darks and hard edges up here at the top.
Well, that's fantastic. Great answer. Thank you, Caitlin. Really shaping up. Looking really cool there. Thank you. Okay, so it's time for us to bring in another charity. We have Jessica Arch from Lifting Hands International, and she's going to talk to us a little bit about. But we'll get there. Let's first talk about Lifting Hands International and what the purpose of the charity is. Can you tell us a bit about that?
Yeah, definitely. So I'm Jessica with Lifting Hands International, and we help refugees all around the world. So we provide aid and lots of different kinds of aid based on what we hear from refugees in different circumstances about what they need.
Well, that sounds excellent. And it looks like, and I remember us doing this. Can you tell us a bit about the shipments that Dragonsteel did with helping Ukraine?
Yeah. So we help refugees and displaced people, and when the invasion in Ukraine happened, we were one of many orgs that jumped up and said, hey, we want to do something to help the millions of Ukrainians being displaced within their own country. And so Lightweaver and Dragonsteel helped us send shipments of aid that we had gathered, homemade blankets, hygiene supplies, food, things like that into Ukraine. And it's been really transformational. We have a system now where we are providing aid in frontline villages, so people who are totally cut off from supply lines, just a mile or 2 miles away from the actual fighting, and bringing them in food and water and medicine while they live in dark basement shelters, essentially just trying to survive. And then we also have community centers around the country as well that are helping war widows and children. I think of a girl we work with named Kira. She's 9 years old, lives in a deoccupied area of Ukraine. And so she's able to get art therapy and group therapy to process some of the things she's seen and experienced. She has to learn how to navigate around landmines in her village. And all school is virtual and online, but she can come to our community center and get tutoring and also have a place to just be a kid and play, which is so important.
That sounds awesome. That's really great to hear about. I love these stories about individuals and how the charities are helping them. How can we get involved here with helping? That's right, Lifting Hands International.
Yeah, we have lots of different volunteer opportunities. You can check out our website, lhi.org. There's simple things to do that you can do, from writing a card that just says you are loved, that we include in our aid packets we distribute in refugee camps around the world. We also have a special campaign right now to buy a goat, which is why I have this beautiful goat here beside me. And we think that goats are, you want me to hold that? There we go. Goats are one of the most impactful forms of aid we find. It's a great way to provide financial stability and self-reliance to refugees living in camps where they don't have a lot of choice or agency or ability to earn income. And so they can breed the animals and within just a few years go from 2 goats to a herd of 25. It's quite transformational. And it gives them the ability to have agency to choose how to use that income, whether it's for food or medicine or to pay for school fees for their kids or improve their housing situation. So really transformational.
So is that throughout the world, or what countries can you do that for? Yeah. I'm curious where all you go giving goats to people.
Yeah. So our GOAT program right now is in Jordan, helping Syrian refugees, in Uganda. Uganda is the largest host in Africa for refugees. So they're from all over, but we're primarily working in camps with Congolese refugees. And then we're expanding into Ethiopia next month and hope to expand into additional countries in 2025 as well.
That is so awesome. I think it's incredible the things that you're doing to help people throughout the world. In a time when there's just, you can look and see there's there's so many bad things going on, right? Tonight I'm feeling really uplifted by the good things that are going on as well. So thank you for that. Do you have anything else you'd like to say before?
Sure. Well, just to echo your point that it can be really discouraging to read headlines and feel like things are hopeless, but we can be the hope that we're hoping for. And there is a lot to be hopeful about and things we can do together to lift one another up. And that's the point of Lifting Hands International. And you know, it matters. It matters when there's conflict or a natural disaster to show up and help. It matters to sit and listen. And it matters to not forget people. We're like with the GOAT project in Jordan, the Syrian refugee crisis started over 10 years ago. And there's still needs that we can help and we can address. And then on top of that, all of the new needs that have emerged since then. But together, you know, we're able to accomplish some wonderful things.
Can you give us your website one more time?
Yeah. It's 3 letters, lhi.org.
All right, lhi.org. So Jessica Arch from Lifting Hands International, thank you so much for joining us here tonight and for partnering with Lightweaver on these things. So thank you.
Yeah, so excited to partner with Lightweaver. It's a great partnership.
Right. Well, thank you so much. Let's give Lifting Hands International and Jessica a hand. So thank you. All right. How are things going here? We're doing good? Okay. If anybody else wants a tour, come on up here. Okay, sounds good. And I just had some. Thank you. So maybe I'm just gonna kind of look over the artist's shoulders here for a little bit and see how things are shaping up. So we do have some questions here from the online chat. Erica's going to give us.
From Meh, question to any of the artists: which of these two paintings would you have wanted to create? Saturn devouring his son or American Gothic?
Saturn
Devouring his son.
Okay.
Or American Gothic.
Okay. We'll go down the line here and do that. All right. So the question is, which of these two paintings would you have liked to have been the creator of? American Gothic or Saturn devouring his children? All right, Esther, putting you on the spot.
Depends on how depressed I am in any given moment. I'd probably go with Saturn devouring his son. That's such an emotive painting. Yeah.
I think that's cool. That a little more action in that one. But they're both kind of interesting in their topics, right? Yeah. Cool. How about you, Kari?
Well.
I think I know the answer.
You know the answer. But yeah, Saturn devouring his son. It's creepy. That's fun.
Would you do like a different version of Saturn?
It'd be fun to redesign Saturn, yeah.
I want to see this painting someday. We should do a show doing that. There we go. All right, let's ask Brian here. I keep getting in the way. Thanks for... All right. Which one would you have liked to have painted?
Well, definitely Saturn devouring the sun. I mean, just the painterly quality of it, the texture of the work, the emotional strength of the brushwork. It just has all those kinds of things that make it a timeless piece. And so there's a certain energy to it. Obviously, it's a powerful and disturbing story in mythology, and I just think by far that would be the more interesting one to paint.
So are we like voting on this now, right? It's like because I think I know the answer for a lot of these, but maybe somebody will surprise us. Howard, how about for you?
Maybe I would do American Gothic, but I'd have like one of them devouring the other person to turn it into American Gothic devouring their spouse. That would be my take on it.
Wow.
If I had to have a serious answer, yeah, I would do Saturn devouring his baby. I love Greek mythology. It's like I think about it almost as much as I do the Roman Empire, so quite a bit.
Okay, we have a question for Howard that was asked Anne. What is the question?
They were wondering what marker or pen Brandon used to start these photos.
Okay. The question is, What marker brand or pen did Brandon use to start these paintings?
Yeah, I brought some pens along with me, and we used a Sharpie brand acrylic paint marker. So just a black acrylic paint marker. And I chose the acrylic one because we were working on gesso boards, which have an acrylic primer. And I figured some of the artists may want to work in acrylics. And so keeping that all uniform would allow them to either work acrylics or work on top with oils. So it was versatile that way.
So if Brandon had used just a normal Sharpie, how would the different paints have worked? Could you have still painted over the top of that, or would it cause problems?
We could paint over it, but the dye-based markers like that, just a regular Sharpie, would tend to bleed through. With acrylics, you might be able to cover it up, but I think with oils, especially as it dissolves the ink of that, we'd probably have some issues with it blurring and blending and eventually kind of bleeding through the paint surface.
So, of all the artists that I love to talk about materials with, Howard's my guy. So it's super fun, and he knows a lot about it. And anyway, just thought I'd mention that he's a fun materials guy. So,
so is Sharpie archival, or does it depend?
Yeah, it's definitely not archival. It will fade rather quickly if it's in the sun. In the course of a year, it will almost completely disappear. If it's in, say, a book that's closed, it's going to last probably your lifetime, but will slowly kind of fade.
Good to know. Thanks, Howard. All right, Caitlin, American Gothic or Saturn devouring his children?
Definitely Saturn devouring his children. I'm a sucker for emotive art, and that's definitely very emotive.
Okay, there we go. Steve.
I mean, it's not going to be a surprise. Saturn eating his son is way more interesting than American Gothic. I mean, American Gothic is like technically very cool, but I mean, he's some farmers just looking at you. Like, in general, like Goya has a lot of feeling in his pieces. They're in a lot of ways they're kind of opposite pieces, because American Gothic is technically very good, but kind of boring. I know that people are going to be mad at me, and then Saturn eating his son is kind of technically a mess, but it really hits you. So, you know,
is an interesting question, and if I'd thought about it for a minute, I'd be like, we're talking to a bunch of awesome fantasy artists. I think we know the answer here. I'm still gonna give Donato a chance to answer that just in case, but I think I know the answer here too.
Oh yeah, it's Saturn. It's the Goya, no doubt. I was able to, luckily enough, to see the original in the Prado Museum, so it's just like crazy, and it's such a psychological painting. I mean, not that American Gothic isn't as well, but the brutality is conveyed so effectively in that work is just absolutely stunning.
How big is it in person?
It wasn't that large, if I recall. Maybe not even 3 feet tall, or it was about 25 years ago that I saw that. So I've seen a lot of paintings. Yeah.
So 3.5 feet.
Giant painting. No, yeah, not a giant painting, but it could be a giant painting, right?
Wow, I'm sitting here amazed at your skills of lettering in paint. It's such a difficult thing.
Yeah, I'm freehanding this. This is like all no ruler, just eyeing it. That's 32 years of being a painter for book covers and illustration. So yeah, taking all my skill to get this here.
This is looking awesome. Nice job. All right. Do we have any other questions that we want to have answered right now? Otherwise, I'm just going to kind of look over shoulders and talk about fry sauce, I guess. So,
Isaac?
yes.
Sorry, we've got a question from
We have one
Alex.
here. And then we have one over here as well.
Oh, awesome. Why don't we take that one first?
Okay, we'll take that one first, then we'll go to the online questions.
Hi, beautiful artists. I was wondering, what age did each of you start to draw and paint and get into art?
Okay, so I'm gonna start over here and just go down the row and have you tell us what age you started doing art. Oh, sorry. Okay, we're gonna start with Esther here. What age did you start doing art?
19.
Wow, 19. It seems like there's a story behind that.
Oh, excuse me. Yeah, I was raised by parents that are both artistic. My dad's a designer. My mom studied art in college. So a typical teenager, I was like, if my parents did it, it can't be cool. And was really determined to study the sciences. And then I took a marine biology course at the community college my senior year of high school and realized that marine biology is not playing with dolphins all day. And realized that I really liked making things and I should maybe do that for a career.
Well, very cool. Thank you, Esther. All right, Kari.
I have distinct memories of like being 4 years old trying to make TIE fighters. So yeah, it started pretty young.
That's pretty cool.
And a TIE fighter is really easy to draw. It's just a circle with like 2 lines coming out for the shield. So
It's almost the Cosmere symbol. Which, yeah, I mean, you just 2 TIE fighters, spin them around on top of each other. Now everybody knows my secrets, too. No. All right, Brian, when did you start?
So, when I was, let's see, I was 8 years old. I told my dad I wanted to be an artist, full-time artist. So he about fell over. And anyway, that was kind of the time when I was like committed. But the other thing is, I remember in 3rd grade drawing a horned owl and just feeling the magic of it, that something just happened there that clicked, and I've found that it was a pivotal point. The other thing was, I have to credit Bob Ross for getting me into oil painting. So I got a set when I was 8 years old for Christmas, and it's been a love affair ever since.
So did you follow along with Bob Ross videos and things like that?
I tried once and made a total mess of it, and realized that I had a lot to learn, and so I got some lessons and kind of learned more of the classical way of painting.
And we're really spoiled these days where we can look something up on YouTube and stop it and pause it. I mean, if you tried to follow along back in the day when it was just on television, right? And it's like, okay, I got a half an hour. I've got all my paints together, right?
Well, and I didn't realize there was this thing called magic white. He would slather the canvas with it at first, and so it'd have this kind of wetter approach to it. I had no idea it was doing that, so I was trying to do it without this, magic white.
And he would paint the painting like 3 times, right? It was, well, I can't remember each stage, but he would paint it once before, right? Here, I'm going to let you explain it because you probably know better than I do.
Yeah, he'd paint it once before, then he'd paint it as a piece that he'd have on set. So at first he'd kind of work all the details, then he'd paint it for the set, and then he'd paint a 3rd one for, reference photography afterwards. So there's 3 of each. And all of his paintings, you'll never see them in auction because they're all owned by a corporation, and they still own his brand. And there's a great Netflix documentary you got to check out.
I've heard about that one. There was a Bob Ross one that I saw. I've only seen one, and it was at a gallery like at a mall. And I was like, this is the only Bob Ross I've ever seen.
Yeah, the Frameworks Gallery in University Mall had one on display for a while, and they paid a lot of money for it. Yeah. I don't know how they came about it, but I know that it was expensive.
I imagine so. Howard, so when did you start doing art?
I was a lot older and wiser than Brian when I decided I was going to do art. I was 10 years old instead of 8 years old. And it came about from playing Dungeons and Dragons and deciding, like, I want to create things like this. And that was my early inspiration, a 10-year-old. So I think I had a good friend that introduced me to D&D on a camp out one night, and we started playing that evening, and before I knew it, it was like 5 a.m. the next day, and we were like, this is the greatest thing I've ever played. And as we went on, more and more, I would just spend my time drawing the monsters and drawing the characters, and it started to frustrate the people I was playing with, because I'm like, just a minute, I'm not quite done. I got to draw this. I got to draw this before we start. Yeah, that was really kind of the fuel that made me think this is what I want to do.
I have a question that's kind of related to that. We talked in one of the panels this week that you saw a coffee table book with at your grandmother's house, and had a picture by Ong on the front. Was that the one of the woman looking over her shoulder, and she has like 17 vertebrae more than she ought to have? That was like one of the first paintings that I saw young and thought, oh wow, classical painting can be cool. It can be good. I remember looking at that and just going, wow, there's something neat about the way that it was rendered.
Yeah, it's such a captivating painting, and I remember being very young and seeing that, and not understanding necessarily what it was. Like a new feeling of like, this is such a beautiful work of art. And yeah, I look back on that experience with great gratitude and fondness, because I feel like I knew then that I love art. I love seeing these beautiful creations, and I was fortunate to have parents and extended family that loved art as well, and that liked to go to museums, and having that kind of foundation and support made me feel like this is something that I could do and be supported doing it. So I know that I'm very fortunate in that regard, because not everybody has that. So.
Well, I'm glad that you were inspired to do art, because your art makes the world a better place. So I appreciate that. That piece was also one of the first times that I realized that the French don't spell things the same way they say them. Ong, it's spelled Ingres, which I would look at that and be like, oh, Ingres, right? But it's Ong. So anyway, there you go. If you want to look up that artist, really, really neat way of rendering paintings. All right, Caitlin, how old were you when you started doing art?
If you ask my mom, she says I was 2. Long time. I've always had a pencil or a crayon or something to draw with. So, yeah.
2. Wow, that's awesome. Steve, are you going to beat that with like, I was doing art in the womb? There we go.
Even before that. Don't ask me how. It's weird. It's timey-wimey. I don't actually remember, so it must have been very early. I didn't pursue it seriously until my mid to late 20s, but like my parents tell stories of my mom and my dad were both working, so they would bring me to my dad's office, and I would hang out with the receptionist and draw on the legal pads. And they were super supportive, and it was so awesome. And so early on, I was like, this is something people like that I can do. I mean, you know, obviously I was like 3 and it was not good, but I remember for most of my life getting a lot of encouragement, undeserved encouragement. There's another story where my mom had bought her first piece of furniture in her whole life, and it was this dresser, and it was white, and she was so happy with it. And I saw how happy she was with it, and I also knew how much she liked my drawings. Yeah, you see where this is going. So I drew all over it with a permanent marker. And you know, normally that she would be totally justified in ending me there, and I would never exist. But what she did instead was she was like, this is so great and so amazing, but you know what makes me kind of a little sad about it is I can't take this and show all of our friends. This is too heavy for me to take and show all of the receptionists and all the people who like your art. I just wish you would have done it on paper, because then we can show people. And I mean, that did it. Like, I always found the right thing to draw on from that point forward, and I was not killed.
I am super impressed by your mother's reaction. That is amazing. Wow, what a way to really kind of encourage you young. That's amazing. What a great answer. Wow. I kind of want to rewind now and redo my parenting.
Well, the encouragement really, I think it's really a lot of it, because most of us, we kind of like art and we like singing and we like music and we like all of these things until we're teenagers, and then it's whether it's cool or not. And most of the time it's not. You want girls to like you, and you want the guys to think you're cool and tough and all that. And a lot of times, painting and playing music and singing and dancing, these are things you're not supposed to do anymore. And you just drop it and never pick it back up. I think a lot of successful people in creative industries, they just never really put it down. And a lot of that comes down to feeling safe doing it. Feeling like there is an appreciation for it, and that you're validated in doing that and being that way.
Yeah, that's awesome. Thank you, Steve. Chicken's looking good. I'm kind of like, why did Brandon say, chicken, but not like do his colorful chickens? So anyway, kind of interesting.
If I would have thought about it, if I had thought about it, I'd do like rainbow colors and do like an homage to Jell-O or something.
Hey, it's looking fantastic. All right, Donato. When did you start?
Well, actually, my running comment is actually I did start in the womb. I left cave paintings for my brother, who would then come out a year later after me. But yeah, I have always drawn, and luckily my parents, I should point out, my first grade teacher recognized how much I love to draw, and so for the grammar assignments that we would have in class, she allowed me to answer the questions with pictures. So she, everyone else had to answer with like writing out sentences and such, but she would allow me to draw out answers in response. And we have many, a folio of those, approximately 20 of these works of art from my first grade time, with me drawing out all these wonderful images from children's books and from assignments in first grade.
That's again another amazing story of somebody recognizing a talent or an interest and encouraging it. That's amazing. That's awesome.
Yeah, and actually she was a much older teacher. She actually was retiring a few years after I had her as a teacher. So it was really wonderfully benefited from her experience and knowledge and willingness to engage and encourage my artistic future. So yeah, really hats off to Mrs. Bryant, was her name. Yeah.
That's great. Thank you. All right. Do we have okay? We have another question from the audience, from Erica down here. Okay.
Question for Donato. Once upon a time, you told a little anecdote to a BYU class about your first ever professional illustration of a really chromed out robot. And you explained that you tried to pull out all the stops and just blow their socks off with that first piece, so that they kind of had no choice but to rehire you and give you more opportunities. Can you speak to that same principle now, way further down your career and what you're doing? How does that or doesn't that apply to your work now?
It still applies. The idea of producing a work that impresses your client, that secures your professional relationship with them. For one of the other things is that, yes, you can do that challenge, but you need to make sure you meet the deadline. So that's another, showing professionalism, working with changes or modifications for sketches, but being able to basically bring your A game, your best game to the very first assignment to a client, again, shows your commitment to their business model, shows your commitment to yourself, so that your future assignments will also be something that you can look forward to and challenge yourself with. And the same idea is that you don't just challenge your client, but you're challenging yourself with every job. You're finding new ways of expressing yourself, new either technical possibilities for yourself to challenge yourself with. And that's what I even do now, to this day. So 32 years later after that commission, I am still seeking ways to keep myself engaged, excited over new projects, and therefore keep my clients happy with the results as well.
Oh, that's great. Great advice. Yeah. Steve just said, and we are challenging ourselves today with these things. So that is really hats off to all these artists who took on this challenge, which is not only to paint in their style or realistically something that Brandon drew kind of almost in that stick figure style, but also to do that in front of an audience. So hats off to all y'all. So it looks like we have a question here in the front, Erica.
As we enter the last 40 minutes of this drawing, my question is simple. Besides the time limit, how do you know when you're done with a piece?
Okay. We're just going to go up from here. Besides the time limit, when do you know you're done with a piece?
Deadline. I'm a commercial illustrator. I've worked 32 years. It's the deadline. And the deadline is not so evil. It forces you to find shortcuts. And they're not shortcuts. They're shorter solutions to visual problem solving. And they help you, therefore, increase your confidence in what you're capable of doing, and therefore allow you to meet the demands and complexities of those challenges that you can place ahead of yourself for the next jobs. So the deadline has been a wonderful, strange curse in my professional world that has allowed me to grow immensely as an artist.
I think that's incredibly true because, as they say in that maxim, necessity is the mother of invention. When I've been under deadline, I find ways to work smarter, right? It's kind of like that deer in the headlights thing. It's like, okay, if I don't jump now, I'm going to miss the deadline. But
Oh, yeah, that work smarter is a great adage, like being able to think before acting, planning. Like one of my processes that evolved out of illustration was doing these very detailed preliminary drawings which save labor on the back end as you color them in. So that processes allowed me to increase the complexities I could do because I could therefore bring more or less labor necessary to complete more complex images in my work. So yes, smarter is better.
And I think when you're under the deadline, those juices start flowing and you have to work smarter. So how about you, Steve?
So one thing about deadlines that helps, especially as an overall progress as an artist, is you can't do everything you want. You don't have time. And so you start to ask yourself, what is important for each piece. You start to take away the stuff that doesn't matter as much and focus on the things that do. That helps you, you end up making a better piece because you're kind of boiling it down to the important things, and over time, that's how you develop a style. You realize the parts that are important to you, what work well for you, and you develop those over necessarily just doing everything, you know. And deadlines are also nice because I know a piece is finished if it's like a personal piece because I am actively making it worse every time I touch it. The problem is you go a long way into making it worse before you realize how much damage you've done. When it comes to deadlines, you kind of don't have time to take it too far.
Yeah, you learn to triage pretty quickly, right? It's like, because I think a lot of artists, it's not everybody, but a lot of artists are kind of notoriously detail-oriented, and that deadline is really helpful at figuring out what's really important and going, okay, these details don't matter as much. I'm going to really focus over here. So otherwise, I think a lot of us wouldn't really get things done, at least for me. I'll talk for myself that the deadline is my friend in getting things done.
Yeah, and for artists who are aspiring, so you don't have deadlines yet, make them for yourself. Like, give yourself time boxes. Say, this piece I am only going to spend X amount of time on, and then it's done. And then follow through with that, because the next important thing is finish pieces. It's real easy to start something, get excited, and then start the next thing, and then get excited about another thing and start the next thing. There's a lot of value in completing things.
That's perfect. We're gonna talk to Brian about that in just a minute because I think Brian has some things probably to say about that. With but we're gonna go here to Caitlin. How do you know when a piece is finished, or you know, finishing deadlines and things like that?
Whenever I have to order prints, usually. I'm usually trying to make something obviously for a deadline or for a show, such as like Dragonsteel, trying to get a piece put together for that. So it's usually, okay, I look at the piece and say, is everything to a finished level that I like, such as like the wings here. I'm not as happy with the detail level in the wings versus like the body. And there is a way where you can have some detail fall off, where I could have the detail fall off here at the edges of the wings, but I really want to push that detail. So I'll look at every important piece of the illustration and decide if I'm happy with the amount of detail in the piece and if it needs to be pushed up or down, and if I'm happy with the dynamics of all of the detail in the piece, then I know that the piece is finished and I can set it aside.
Great answer. Thank you. Okay. Okay, perfect. All right, so we're gonna hold off on asking those other questions up here, and we're gonna go to a new question. Okay. Oh, we're gonna do Tim, then the question. Okay, so we have Tim Reiser from Prism Book Program is here to talk to us here for a few minutes. So welcome, Tim.
Thank you.
So with the Prism Book Program, can you tell us a little bit about the mission and of that?
Prism Book Program is a 501c3 nonprofit based out in Boston, Massachusetts. So I lived there a couple years ago and got involved after I found out that my father had served time in prison. He kind of told us all when I was in my mid-20s and I hadn't realized. And I said, okay, how can I help? And I got involved with Prism Book Program, and their mission is pretty simple: send free books to people in prison who don't have access. So that's what they've been doing since 1972 out of a small basement in the bottom of a church next to the crypt of President John Adams and Abigail Adams. Very Boston.
That's pretty awesome. And you were in the Boston area then when you got involved with that? Yeah. That's awesome. Can you tell us how we can get involved with the Prism Book Program?
You bet. What we do is pretty simple. We ask for book donations in the Boston area, and they go into the basement of the church. That's our headquarters. And we're not a religious organization. They've just graciously given us some space. And then we have volunteers come in, and we receive letters from people in prison. Can you hold this real quick? So we receive written letters, tens of thousands of them a year. And these letters go something like this. This person wrote from Florida, writing us because they would like to request reading material. The property room allows soft cover books, not hardcover. Each prison has so many restrictions. And the following is a list of material I'm interested in: drawing techniques for experts, coloring book, composition notebook, prefer college ruled, and biography and autobiography for anyone that you feel is interesting. Thank you. God bless. We get letters like this every day, and we're matched with we match with books that are donated to us. So this particular letter, we're giving several biographies and autobiographies, as well as the drawing materials they requested. So if you're in the Boston area, there's obviously a lot of ways to participate, volunteering directly and donating books. But for everyone else outside of the Boston area, if you know people who are in prison, you can let them know about us. We send books to all 50 states. So we just got involved with Lightweaver this year, which we're really excited about. And they've been great in helping us bring more books to people in prison. This year we're going to send 75,000 books across the U.S. to over 1,000 institutions, prisons and jails. And to people who don't have the freedom to read like we do, the impact of a book can't be overstated. It really is a light to a dark place.
Thank you. I think this is excellent. This is really cool. That's a big operation to send out 75,000 books a year. How many people does that take? Like, in the basement of that church?
So we bring in all kinds of volunteers. Companies come in. We have a dedicated group of core volunteers. We have a lot of people affiliated with different service or religious organizations who come in to volunteer. But we had, I think, 1,400 volunteer hours last year, just processing letters and doing our best to do the creative work of matching them. When you get letters and you're dependent on book donations, you can't always match exactly what they're looking for. My first letter that I got 4 years ago when I walked in was a letter from a person who was about to get out of prison, and they said, I'm looking to start a trucking business. Do you have any materials? And I'm staring around this small room looking at what we have, and I'm like, maybe I can find something about business. But I go through and I browse, and I ended up finding a book someone had donated earlier called How to Start a Trucking Business 101. And magic is real. It's just small. It's small moments. And that's what we get to do day after day.
Well, thank you. That is awesome. Tim, thank you for being here with us today. And thank you for telling us about Prison Book Program. And did we give the URL at all for that yet? Let's do that.
So prisonbookprogram.org is where you can go to learn more about us. You can read letters from people in prison talking about their experiences with us, how they went on to earn their GED and college degrees through the books that they obtained through us. And you can also donate. So we really are supported by small dollar donors who are supporting us month after month.
Perfect. So you go to prisonbookprogram.org, and you can donate there, or if you're in the Boston area, you can also come and volunteer. And also donations to Lightweaver help as well. That's right. So we're excited to be Lightweaver partnering with Prison Book Program.
We couldn't be more thrilled. We share that belief with Brandon that books are a basic need, and that we don't really have the freedom to read until all of us do.
Oh, that's excellent. Thanks for being here with us. Let's give Tim and Prison Book Program a big hand of applause. Round of applause. Thank you again. All right. So here we are in the home stretch. I had a question that I wanted to ask Brian over here that dovetailed with some of the things that we were talking about earlier. So Steve was saying, or we were answering, how do we know when something is done? And Brian, you do this thing twice a year, right? Correct me if I'm wrong, where you have a whole month where people do a painting a day. And I think this is really excellent because of learning to finish a project. A lot of times, this goes with any really endeavor, or artistic or otherwise, that we begin a lot of things sometimes, but we don't finish. So being able to learn the whole process and sort of force yourself to learn that whole process and do it over and over again, you're going to get better much more quickly than if you do one thing and do it perfectly. So would you like to kind of talk to that?
Yeah, so I think there's some things like being decisive. And I noticed years and years ago that I'd have people take a workshop from me and they would come back and not be a whole lot better, a year later. And it was super frustrating. And so, and then I'd get all kinds of excuses, right? It's the same thing with exercise and, a bunch of things that we should be doing on a regular basis, right? And so we started this idea called the Strata Challenge, which was paint or draw from life every single day in the month of September, and we also now do it in January. So it's one of those things that really helps you, start a piece, get moving on it, finish it that day, or just give you a time block like Steve was saying, and like a couple hours, and then you do it. You post it on social media, and then you do it the next day. And then by the end of 30 days or 31 days, you have this body of work that you created. And what people notice is what I've seen over the years, and we've done this for many years, about 12 years now. And we've, through this whole process, there's hundreds of thousands of works of art that have been created through it, by artists all over the world. But what I've seen is that there is that progress that occurs over the years, not in the day, not like you don't notice it until you look back and see over the years how much you've progressed. And a lot of that is because you've let go of all those inadequacies or these worries you have about making something perfect. And, it's like the surgeons say, the heart surgeon will say, perfect is the enemy of good. You want to get in there, perform surgery, sew them up. But if you start worrying about getting the perfect stitch, all kinds of bad things could happen. So that's one of the things we try and do to help people get over, any type of artist block or whatever. You're just creating day by day, and you're just doing it, and you start to get into rhythm.
I think that's one of the best pieces of advice that I can think of for a creator, is to get in and just learn the processes, like you were saying, just get in, do it, learn the process, do it again, repeat it. Because it's through that repetition that you're going to learn what excess to cut away, and kind of like what you're interested, what part of the process do you really love. And so I think that's one of the best pieces of advice that a creative can receive. So thanks, Brian. Howard, how do you know when a piece is done? This is looking awesome. I like the double TIE fighter on his hat.
I say, the deadline is important tonight. I'll know it's done at 10 o'clock. But I also feel like the painting asks a lot of questions initially. In initially they're very big questions of like, what color is it? What value is it? And then it gets down to very specific questions. Is this a fingernail? Does it look like a fingernail? Is it important if it does look like a fingernail? Those sorts of things. And at a certain point, I feel like the painting stops asking questions. You can look at it and everything feels resolved. Everything feels like it is enough, for whatever circumstance, whatever it's supposed to be. So that's what I say when it kind of stops asking me what it needs.
Great. Well, thank you. Well, this is looking good. There's getting fewer and fewer needs on your painting. All right. Do we have any more questions? We do. This one's from online.
From Alex Infante, what's the most challenging part of painting Cosmere themes?
The most challenging part of painting Cosmere themes. Well, we're going to go over here to Kari and then to Esther. What is the most challenging part of painting Cosmere themes?
Well, I think Brandon's imagination is very no holds barred. Like the creatures can be very complex. I've done the chasm theme, and now I can't remember how many does it have 10 legs? I mean, that's a lot of legs. And between that and characters flying around, there's a lot of things to think about with physics and anatomy if you want to approach it from a more realistic view. However, that's part of the fun too.
Yeah, that Edelin's looking great. So happy, right? Because he.
Well, they're gonna be having purple wine. So
Oh,
it's the hard stuff.
they're drinking the purple wine. It's the hard stuff. All right, Esther. I know we threw you in at the deep end on Ember Dark, right? You really have a complex job with this. But what is the most difficult part of painting these Cosmere works?
I think I got off somewhat easy on the creatures in mine, but the lighting schemes are totally wild. Especially, I come from a more like traditional portrait painting background, and in these we've got like a blue light on one side and then a different blue light on the other side, and then they're holding a lantern, so there's a warm light. So trying to wrap my head around how to get all of that lighting correct and still create good form. I might have cried a few times already.
And that was my fault. No, it was Brandon's fault. Brandon's fault, not my fault. This is looking fantastic here. I love the reflections going on. Yeah. This is really cool.
Pretty much just repeating the painting I just finished for the book, so.
Sorry, I coughed at the same time. That was not a guffaw of. But that's looking really, really good. Really good. All right. Do we have any other questions that we want to put out here? Yeah. Oh, Brian has a comment over here.
So one of the biggest challenges I think with doing Cosmere stuff is the fans will keep you on track, and they'll let you know if you're off base. So anyway, that's also a lot of fun because it just shows how passionate the fans are about getting things right. And so I think an artwork is only completed by the viewer, and so it's really fun to get people's opinions on things, like where they'll say that's exactly how I imagined it, or this is not accurate at all, or and everything in between.
Thanks, Brian. Yeah, the fans certainly keep us honest, don't they, when it comes to Cosmere lore. All right. We are getting into the home stretch here. 18 more minutes. I feel like this is like Lego Masters or something, and we need to like blast a horn. All right, this is the point when the Lego builds fall apart. So nobody, please like drop your painting butter side down or anything like that. Otherwise, we're gonna have to cut it and make it seem like really dramatic in the after cut. All right, I heard something over here. Okay, we have another question up front here, Erica. Thanks for.
Isaac, how much time do you and Brandon give them for projects? Like, what were their time limits that they had for their books?
Yeah, it's dependent upon the piece. Like with Esther and Howard and Steve, who have done secret projects with us, where they've done almost all of the art. There's usually a longer period of time that we work on that, several months. Yeah, if not like, well, Howard's gone here, but it was like 6 to 9 months, maybe more. Well, maybe Steve remembers that. How many months did you have work on the Frugal Wizard?
Well, there's two answers. There's how many months you gave me and how many months I took. So I think initially we started in January, and we were aiming to have it done by June. I think I took till like October.
Well, luckily we had some deadline things, wiggle room going on with like the different binderies and things. But yeah, there was so much. I often say with Steve's secret project, the Frugal Wizard's handbook too. Surviving Medieval England. So the one that he and Brandon collaborated on there. Brandon wrote it, and Steve did the art. That if a picture is worth 1,000 words, you wrote more words than Brandon did.
And that's hard because the title has almost more artwork than, or almost more, there's more words in, it's getting late. Title has more words than I have artwork in it. And, you know, for aspiring artists, don't be several months late. That's bad practice.
Well, the cool thing is we were getting art right up until it went to press. Like the last day, we had the proofs, right? And it's like, you submitted like a 5th piece, and I'm like, where am I going to put this? We found a place for it. But that was pretty awesome. That I've never had another book where it's just the art just keeps coming in, and it's all awesome.
Thanks. It was absolutely fun to work with. I like the challenge of working with Cosmere for me is that there are so many possibilities, and you know that you can explore those. You know, as a company, you guys respect the creative process like nobody else. I mean, I don't mean to sound pandering, but like for the secret projects, you guys said, here's the book, do what you want to do. That's kind of not a thing anyone else does. Most of the time a client, they know what they want, and they direct it to be that way, and that's fine, that's great, that's the way the industry works. But you're kind of overwhelmed when you work on something with the Cosmere, because it's expansive in its possibilities.
Yeah, it is, and you're doing great work, though. All of you are. We love it. We love it. I'm getting late. It's getting late for me too. Yeah, and I'm like, where are my kids? Okay. Anne's going to find out where my kids are. I didn't leave them in the car. It's really cold out there. But it's also misty, which I'm like, this is really apropos to the convention. We go out there and it's misty. We don't really get a lot of mist around here. I feel like all the Mistborn brought it. It's really awesome. Yeah, do we have any other questions here? Any other questions people would like answered? Oh, we were still working on that answer. So it really depends on the piece. So if somebody's just doing like one piece for a leather-bound book, usually we're trying to give them, we look a few months, even more so, ahead. A lot of artists are planning their schedules, sometimes even like 6 months to a year ahead. And if we can, we try to contact them early enough to let them know, hey, there's a painting we would like done. Here's the deadline. If you want to work with this, is that going to work into your schedule? And so sometimes we're more looking at when the deadline is than like how many, because that artist then, if we hire them like 9 months or a year ahead of time, they're really taking however long they need to within that time period, but they might be spending a month on the piece, but we've given them 6 months to work on it. And there have been times that I've approached people like Steve or Howard, and I've said, we really need something done, and we need it done fast, because a need comes up that we hadn't planned for. And so in those cases, they've really gone to bat for us with themselves. And is that even a metaphor? I don't know. They've really come through and helped us out, but we try to go as far ahead as possible and give people a lot of time to work on the pieces. Okay, we have another question from online.
The online chat, what's the most challenging Cosmere piece you have made?
The most challenging Cosmere piece you have made.
And it's for any of the artists.
Any of the artists. Does anybody want to volunteer on that? Howard does.
So the painting that I've worked on the longest ever in my career, and I've worked on some big pieces, is the end pages that are in Rhythm of War. So that was 3 months from start to finish, and that's the longest I've ever worked on something. There's a lot of figures, there's horses, there's architecture, there's landscape, and I look at it and I'm so thrilled at the opportunity to have done something that pushed me and was ambitious, but that was definitely the most difficult piece that I've worked on for Cosmere.
And I felt really bad with how much, because we kept coming back and saying, oh, that horse is the wrong color. And it's kind of hard when it's like white and you need to turn it black. Just, or the other way around. Yeah, just kind of, because it's like the complete opposites in the color of the horse. And it's like, well, that's kind of a repaint.
But it had to be done, and you do it. And but those are the sorts of projects that they can go two ways. They can go one way where it becomes frustrating and you finish it and you're just done with it, or it can go where you say, no, this is what the piece needs, and you work on it and you develop it and you get it there. And fortunately it went that way, where I look at it and I'm really proud of the piece and happy that it's being used how it is. So it's very thrilling.
I mean, it's a really epic piece. You did a fantastic job on it. I think just everything about it is really great.
Thanks,
All right. Do we have any other questions? We have another question.
From Verdant Horizons, how important is support from your direct family to your art?
How important
is support from your direct family to your work?
Okay. How important is support from your direct family for your work? I'm going to ask Kari, and I'm just going to ask Kari on this one, and then I think unless somebody stops me, I think we should stop questions for the last 10 minutes.
Well, my wife is an artist, so very important because I have a good critiquer to bounce off ideas, and also someone who understands that it's not strange to focus on something for like 8 hours, 10 hours straight a day.
Yeah, one thing that has impressed me about you two is you really do support each other in your artwork. So I think that's awesome. I've seen that with Howard and Shari as well, supporting each other in the art that you do together. All right, so I think we'll, if it's okay, let's stop questions for the last 10 minutes and let the artists focus on the painting. Maybe this would be a good time if there's anybody who would like to do a close-up tour. Okay. All right. They told me that I didn't have to talk the whole time, but I feel like I've been talking a lot. But I really appreciate all the artists who are talking to and all the questions. This is great. So when Howard and Jane asked me first to do this, I was like, I wasn't exactly sure what I was getting into, and I was like, is this like golf commentary? Right? I was like, okay, it looks like Howard is, he's mixing up the cadmium red with the titanium white. I don't know where this is going to go. It's about half of the titanium white, okay, equal parts cadmium red. He's mixing up it looks like kind of a nice salmony pink color. I don't know what he's going to do with this, but Howard has years of experience behind him. And he's been doing these brush strokes for years with the practice over and over and over. Let's see what happens here. Oh, and there we go. Okay, he's lining up the brush stroke, lining up the brush. Oh, and he hits it. Oh, wow, look at that. And then everybody golf claps. So I was like, is that what we're going to do? But I don't know. Here's a question right here. I did say no more questions. Can we wait till after the thing? Sorry, I completely forgot about my own thing. So we'll wait till right afterward. Is that okay? Okay, thanks. Sorry, thank you. Thanks for remembering when I didn't. It's the time of year where here in Utah, or the northern hemisphere, it's like it gets to be about 7 o'clock at night, and it feels like midnight for the rest of the night. So anyway, a little bit tired. What's that? I need to take a drink. Is it just water? Thanks. This looks like R2D2.
A little bit, yeah.
I haven't seen them.
Kimmy answered my text about your
Okay, thanks. You're welcome. Where's the what map? Where's the map at?
I think it's one of the auction. Let me see if I can find the auction. My husband has it. I have to find it. I love how the squids trying to. I'm so sorry. Okay, so.
Oh, I'm not supposed to look at that one. So that's the one I'm supposed to paint. So that's what the map thing was. Howard, I saw it on accident, just barely, just a little bit. It's okay. I'm wiping it from my mind. Yeah. Oh, there you go. That's one that I'm going to be painting with Steve on a future paint night here soon, probably. All right, we're looking at about 5 minutes.
You're not going to go swimming after this, are you?
All right, artists, add your final brush strokes, because we're going to close this up here. Thank you, everybody, for being here tonight and for supporting Lightweaver Foundation and the other wonderful charities that that we talked about. Let's give them all a hand. And let's also give a round of applause to the artists who are working under deadline tonight. And just a reminder as we close out here that these pieces are going to be up for auction at lightweaverfoundation.org up until the 20th of this month. Brandon will probably be highlighting some of them throughout the month, maybe on Colas Head Munching Day or other weekly updates, things like that. So this is not the last that you will see of them. So go to lightweaverfoundation.org and you can bid on these pieces and others and much more. So thank you, everybody. Have a good night.